Wait a minute. I'd like to call the meeting to order, Pitt County Board of Education meeting for June 1st, 2015. And roll call, I think everyone's present. The Pledge of Allegiance,
Please
Caroline.
join me as we stand, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have, now's the time for a moment of silence, and we would like to remember all of our parents and teachers and remember the students regarding graduation. We also want to remember the family of Devontae Dortch, who drowned this past Saturday, and we need to remember that family. We need to remember his friends and the fellow students at Conley. Let's have a moment of silence. Dear Lord, we do thank you for this day, and we pray, dear Lord, for a productive meeting, and we again do pray for Devontae Dortch's family and his friends, and we pray that you'll be with them. In your name we pray, and in Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Any motion to approve the, or any adjustments to the agenda?
Move approval.
Second.
Benji made the motion, and Mildred seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have spotlight on teaching and learning. Brock.
Good evening. Hope you're all doing well. We're going to start off tonight, spotlight on athletics, really, with another state champion that we have in the district. And I'm going to ask Mr. Paul Scruggs and Jonathan Shingleton to come down, and Mr. Scruggs is going to tell you a little bit about his accomplishment recently.
All right, like I said, I'm Coach Scruggs from North Pitt. This is Jonathan Shingleton. He won the 2A state pole vault championship a few weeks ago. He jumped 13.6 at the 2A state meet. He set a new North Pitt school record this year of 14.3. He was ranked number 1 in 2A for pretty much the entire spring season. He was runner-up last year and moved up to champion this year. He's a very good student, member of the National Honor Society, earned his Eagle Scout Award 2 years ago. Great representative of North Pitt, Pitt County.
Good job, man.
Appreciate all you do, John. All that hard work.
I was talking with him out in the hall about the pole vaulting and the physics involved with that, and I'm always amazed by that. And he was explaining how they go through choosing the proper size pole, and it's very complicated stuff. But, all right, D.H. Conley Principal Don Moore is here for our next recognition, and he's going to bring up one of his staff members and talk to you a little bit about a role he played recently in helping a student.
Good evening, everyone. I would like Kristen to come up with him as well. Kristen is Lynn's wife, and want her to make sure and be up here. Brock told me to go ahead and say a little bit about what happened on May 20th. And Pitt County Schools has been very good over the years, giving us a lot of training when it comes to helping our students out. And some of that training has to do with first responder training, such as doing those things to save a child's life sometimes, or an adult. And it was very poignant on May 20th that we were able to get that training, because on that day I was in my office, and I got a call on the radio that we had an incident down in the cafeteria, and I need to get down there right away. So before I could get out of the main office, the radio came back and said, we have a child who's choking. And then it came back and said, this child is going to choke to death if somebody's not down here. So then I broke and ran, and by the time I got into the cafeteria, Lynn Evans was already behind this young man, giving him the Heimlich maneuver. And when I came around to one of the tables, I saw a lot of folks standing around watching in shock. But I saw this man right here go right into action. And I sat down on a bench where he was leaning over, and I asked the young man, I said, can you breathe? Can you talk to me? And he could not. And he was right before getting ready to go out. And then when I did like the mouth sweep that they tell you to do, I could barely feel something on the back of his throat, and I thought it was a hot dog, actually. And I took my finger out, and the next thing I know, Lynn hit him again, and a grape shot out. And I tell you, I was so happy and ecstatic, and he knows about this. I just bear hugged both of them and wanted to cry right there because I knew that that young man was very close to be in a bad way. So I would just like to say thank you for recognizing this man here today. He's a fine worker for us at D.H. Conley and for saving a young man's life at D.H. Conley.
Taking a leadership role there and saving a kid's life.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, get my group in here. Is this everybody for North Pitt and Farmville? Is that everyone? All right. Okay, some of you may be aware there's a program that the Greenville-Pitt County Chamber of Commerce offers. It's called the Teen Leadership Institute. And 5 of Pitt County's 6 high schools recently had students who concluded this program. And just to give you a little bit of information about the Teen Leadership Institute, they take 5 students from the participating high schools, sophomores, juniors, mostly juniors, I think, and they take part in 5 monthly training sessions during which they learn a little bit about various categories related to leadership. And one of the goals of the program is they want the students to become engaged and help facilitate an understanding with their peers about an issue in their community or in their school. And then they put together a project working together to address that. And Dr. Linker and I had a chance to attend the graduation, is that what they called it, ceremony? Yeah, in which they presented their final projects, and we were just blown away with the presentation. So we decided to bring a couple of the groups in tonight and just briefly summarize their projects, what the issue was that they aimed to address, and how they went about doing so in their schools and their communities. So if I could get the North Pitt folks to come up first, that would be great. And just they looked at the power of positivity, and they'll tell you a little bit about that.
Okay, so the problem that we chose for our school was a lack of positivity. And after talking to a lot of students and teachers, we felt like that was a problem that a lot of people wanted to see addressed. So we chose to address positivity through 3 avenues, and that was instruction, academics, and behavior.
And we wanted to achieve positivity in academics through a flex tutoring program that will be student-run, allowing students to get the tutoring they need, but also not to make the students feel like they are asking for help from a teacher when the teacher has moved on. And also to create an award system that would increase positivity with them.
Behavior-wise, we wanted to use positivity, as in using positive reinforcement instead of negative reinforcement.
We thought that all in positivity should start with teachers, and that no student can be happy if your teacher isn't. So we thought more teachers should have rewards like students do. We thought of a lot of different ideas that would make teachers want to be here.
Our main goal through the Positive Avenue is that positivity is a conscious choice. So when you've got somewhere as big as a school, to achieve positivity, you have to have everyone who is committed to make a difference in their area of influence. So that was our main goal throughout this. That's it for us.
Got a question?
Yes.
Your name and your grades?
Oh, I'm Leah Tripp. I'm a junior.
I'm Nicole Jones. I'm a sophomore.
I'm Connor Wood. I'm a sophomore.
Imani Foreman. I'm a sophomore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on just a minute.
Okay.
You're taking off too quick. Let's see, Con. Nicole. Congratulations. Imani.
Thank you.
Glad you pronounced your name correct. Lee.
Thank you.
And Gabby.
We'll give it to her.
You give it to her.
Thanks.
You want a picture with this group?
Please, yes.
Could you turn around? Excuse me, I like to Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Williams. I'm bring up the Farmville students, and if you would, introduce yourselves to the board when you come up as well.
Good evening. My name is Amber Crisp. I'm in 10th grade. I'm a sophomore.
My name's Jamie Davenport. I'm also a sophomore.
I'm Jalen Dixon. I'm a sophomore.
Adrian Barnhill, and I'm a junior.
We also have another classmate that couldn't be here tonight. Her name is Zaria Cornegay, and she's a junior.
Yes.
So for our school project, we wanted to understand how groups in our school can work together to achieve a common goal, but we noticed how when the whole school works together, they can achieve more bigger things to put back into the community instead of just the school. So we introduced things like the breast cancer awareness idea that we did and the canned food drive that we did, and we gave it to the homeless, and we wanted to have a project that we could say that we achieved something. So we wanted to raise $100 throughout the whole school, students and staff. We wanted to raise it by Friday, which it started on Thursday, so we had 2 days. We raised over $150 altogether. All the money went to the new clinic in Greenville, the VA, and it went towards the homeless veterans, and we were really proud that we could help people in the community and our whole school could get together and work together. That's it.
Anyone else got anything to say?
Yes, sir.
All right. Amber. Jamie. Jamie, it's over here.
I'll give it to her.
You give it to her.
Thank you.
All right, let's get the picture, and we appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you all.
You can
Appreciate
turn
it.
around. Turn around, please. Thank you.
Hello.
Now we've got Ms. Jane Austin Behan. She's going to talk a little bit about some of the arts education happenings recently and throughout the year.
Yes, I'm really happy to be here this evening, and before I forget, you have notebooks, and inside the white notebook, you will see an invitation. We are opening the K-12 student artwork from Pitt County Schools with the Greenville Museum of Art tomorrow, 5:30 to 7. If you can make it, it would be wonderful, because you are going to see the most amazing creations from kindergartners through high school students. So please come. If you can't get there for the reception, the exhibit is up through July 12th. So arts education, why is it so important now? In a global economy which is driven by ideas and innovation, arts education is essential for practicing and acquiring creative and innovative thinking. The highly sought skills needed in today's labor force requires workers who can think independently and work in teams. Regardless of what career path a student will follow, those who can imagine, innovate, understand the big ideas and the interconnectedness of concepts and cultures will have the competitive edge in the workforce. Along with healthy competition, the arts also build a strong work ethic, self-confidence, and help students develop interpersonal and cooperative skills and personal responsibility. Through the creative process found in the arts, individuals are working individually in solo work and also ensemble work. Students develop personal ownership for their learning and personal responsibility to the group. Arts education curriculums provide students the creative environment and practice time to develop non-routine, adaptive, and new ways of thinking. Arts ed students are challenged to identify problems and find solutions to problems through careful observation, listening, learning through mistakes, accepting mistakes with critique, and thus making changes with new ideas and insight. In order to remain flexible and competitive in our fast-paced global economy, the arts education programs teach students how to think, not what to think. And I felt that it was important to read that summary because very often I run into people who have various understanding of why we teach arts in the schools. And really, it is for brain development, and it is also to help students make the connections that they're going to need regardless of the profession they go in. Now, in your booklets, there is a document called Preparing Students for the Next America, the Benefits of an Arts Education. And what it does, it connects research, citations to the actual claims that the arts will improve literacy rates, improve math achievement rates. It talks about the engagement factor. We know even from our own local statistics that kids who are engaged in high school arts programs do not drop out of school. It talks about, on section B of this, it talks about how the arts prepare students for success in work. And again, we know employers saying, give us people who can think independently, that can work on their own, that can create an idea and not have to come to us for an answer. So it also increases the capacity for leadership, improves the problem-solving skills and such. And then the arts preparing the students for success in life. It talks about perseverance. If you've all had a student who is working in an art form, you know how hard it is. It takes years and years and years and years of practice. There's no shortcuts in the art. You have to work at it. And the result is it's even the most professional people in any art form never feel they've arrived. So the work ethic is something that they will carry with them wherever they go. And then on that last page of that document, you can look at the research that they have based this information on. Now, I've also included, we do so many wonderful things for students in our district. Not only at the school level where there's multiple concerts that go on through the year and exhibits and, dance production and theater productions, but as a district, we're very fortunate in that we have kids coming together from different places in the county. They're all working in their respective schools on, in this case, music, and then they come and rehearse under the direction of an expert clinician. And so in your folders, you will see the programs from this school year. In March, the elementary honors choral concert and the middle school choral concert was held at East Carolina University. The middle grades honors orchestra and the high school honors orchestra was held at South Central High School in this past March and April. And of course, the middle school and high school honors bands performance was held this past March at South Central High School. And the quality of the performances it's just so impressive. If you ever have the opportunity to listen, and I know we had a board member that was there, was quite impressed, as is the general public. And this is great just for our community because it does build good positive relationships, just like the students here this evening. It's another way to show how many talented and wonderful things that young people are doing today. Now, on the lavender sheet, there's over 30 exhibits that all of our schools participate in. Some are K-12 exhibits, some are 6-8, some are 9-12 and such. One that you're familiar with is the Margaret L. Blunt, which is all this artwork going down the hallways. But you will see we are very active and engaging students constantly in the arts. We have our arts out in the community, and I'm very pleased with that. In arts integration, I've put some samples, and this will show you. You might pick it up and say, well, this sounds like science. This sounds like math, English language arts. It's those content areas being taught through the arts. And so when we talk about what we try to do in our curriculum here is we teach the arts curriculum, we also teach arts integration, and we also teach arts exposure so that children have access to see professional people in our community. I want to just wrap it up with a couple of the performing arts things that we do as a district. On this coral colored sheet, every year we have 3 outstanding music teachers, Beth Alfers, Joy Carter, and Buddy Hyatt. We present to all second graders, we teach the science unit for them. And this is a letter from a elementary teacher in the county who and on the back side of that is one of their students, a sample of the writing as a result of them attending the Sound Adventure, and they learned the science of sound through musical instruments, and of course we're using the giant pipe organ as a prime example for children to understand these abstract concepts. Every year we do a Four Seasons Chamber Music Festival. All 5th graders got to experience that. These are international musicians who we collaborate with the School of Music at ECU. North Carolina Symphony we offer to all 4th grade students and also all string students in 4th through 8th grade. There is a picture of the Canadian Brass. We do several master classes when East Carolina University brings in a ensemble of great magnitude. I always try to get a free master class so that our high school people are exposed to very high-level musicians. The backside of that is a master class for theater students that we did with an improvisational company, Transactors, who were visiting here. And then our last exhibit that we just completed, and Vidant and the nursing department at East Carolina University just were beside themselves. They asked us if we could do something in celebration of Nurses Week, and we geared it for middle school students, and it was quite a hit. So we have these types of things as a district, and we are making connections all over our community. Kids are seeing how they're connected to even something bigger than themselves, and when they go out into East Carolina or the spaces where we have their student artwork, it changes their whole perspective. Wow, I can do this. And it really is about creativity and student engagement. So I thank you for your time. Come see us tomorrow at the Greenville Museum of Art. Question? That's it?
Okay. No, I didn't see you up here. Sorry, Mr. Chair. I wanted to make sure I could ask a question.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Behan, for
Thank you.
everything,
Okay.
first of all. Have you seen this, Dr. Cato?
Yes.
Well, Can we get a chair over here? How long would something like this take?
It takes a lot of thinking. The length of time, I'm sure, Taylor Camp is the artist. She's a North Pitt High School student. She has been involved. We do several artists. We had a teaching artist that wanted to work with a few select students, and she was one of those students. And so she has worked on her own tirelessly. She is going to NC State in the School of Architecture when she graduates. But this is, all of her arts training has prepared her to be able to be accepted, and it's a very competitive program at NC State, but it is the art along with all the other things. But if she had not the art experiences that she had, I don't think that she would have had that success.
My point is, we have one sample of art, this is just one, and I'm hearing about 30 different exhibits. And am I correct to say at each exhibit, we would not just see one piece of artwork, we would see
Yeah.
100 plus.
Yeah, depending on what the exhibit is. Like in the mall, we have an annual show, and it gets quite a response, positive response. And we change it out once a year because it's very time-intensive to change that many pieces of art. So, but it's so worth the extra effort because people, the mall walkers and
That's
just
right.
pedestrians come up, and the mall business end of it, they love it because they said it just increases their foot traffic tremendously because people are coming to look at the art and actually wanting to buy the art.
And I'm correct that I'm talking about the time right there that students would put into it, but what I also want to talk about is the faculty. These exhibits, am I correct, are not just set up between the hours of 8 and 3:30. These are Saturdays,
Right.
Sundays, nights. I mean, when I go to a school and I see someone setting up for an exhibit or a performance of some, I usually see faculty members with a bunch of volunteers loading personal vehicles for an extended period of time for all this. And we are competing at a state level in several of these categories,
Right.
correct?
That is correct.
And when I'm seeing people in their personal vehicles and things like that, first of all, my hat's off to them. They deserve the highest compliments because what they're doing for our students is well above and beyond. And I'm highly impressed with how we do compete in the arts at the state level, not just locally. And this is an extremely impressive portfolio you've put together for us, and thank you for that. What else do you need? What do you need from this board?
Oh.
One thing I'd like to. That's it.
Well, yeah, my 5 minutes are up. No,
Well, mine aren't.
Well, I would say we're doing amazing things with the resources we have. And going back to your point with just the sheer work ethic that all of the art teachers have in order to make it look easy what we do, because we just roll up our sleeves, we know it has to be done, but the students watch that work ethic.
Yeah.
We are the role models of kids in the arts when they see how hard we work to make it as good as we can get it. It translates, like, they really care about what they're doing. They're very passionate about what they're doing. And that translates, and again, that's not a testable area, but it has a tremendous positive impact on how a student approaches their education. But I know folks are getting restless, but I will get back to you on what our plans are. Yeah, we will do that, especially when this guy's running the chair.
I will say this, when my kids were, Caroline was small, my daughter, she took a coloring book to school. And I had already told her, stay in the line.
Oh, no.
Don't get out of the line.
All the wrong advice.
And that was the wrong advice. She came home, she said, Daddy, Miss Ben said, do not stay. And she eventually took up all her coloring books and gave her just blank sheets.
That's right. We all want it from their own ideas, not somebody else's. But thank you all for your support, and we will continue to roll out the arts in many, many positive ways.
Great job.
Thank you.
And just to follow up on that, I will let you know on our website, I've worked with Jane a lot to try to get out to these exhibits and get photos of the artwork and get them posted in slideshows on there. So you can always, if you happen to miss something, there's a good chance that you can go on to the arts education section and find slideshows of the student work as well. And also, we've got a calendar where we try to post concerts and performances and things like that as they provide us with that information from the schools to keep you informed too. I've got one more, Mr. Chair. I apologize. I was running around. I didn't get to you before, but I'd love to bring this group in and recognize them if we could. So come on in. As you might recall, a few months back, we had in Farmville Middle School and the custodial staff from Farmville Middle and recognized them for the Clean School Award for the fall semester. Well, we've got the Clean School Award winners for the spring semester now, and that's Mr. Michael Foskey down on the end here with his staff, and Sadie Salter Educational Center has won that award. And I'm just going to briefly give you a little bit of background on the award for those of you, just to refresh your memory, and then we'll have Colonel Coffenberry speak about his staff also. They started this in the 2013-14 school year. The top school for that year was Lake Forest Elementary. If you recall, they came in with the big trophy, and we celebrated their accomplishments. There are 2 rounds of inspections, one in the fall, one in the spring. As I said, the spring inspections began in March, and they're based on 5 main custodial areas: the common areas, the classrooms, the restrooms, the dining rooms, and the custodial storage areas. And as they go around and look at these areas, they're graded on either pass or fail. And as I said, Mr. Michael Foskey and his staff with Sadie Salter Educational Center were the spring semester winners. And Colonel Coffenberry, want to say a few words about your crew?
Sure, and I'm proud to be here with these great group of folks that it's an honor to work with them because they do such a great job. It's 2 things. It's attention to detail and pride. If they see something that needs to be fixed, they fix it, or they call and they tell me about it, and we go take care of it. If I ask them to clean something like the grout in the bathroom, because I'm into that, and they can't do it with what they have, they'll come and we'll talk about it and say, what do you need? How can we do this? And I do everything I can to get them what they need so they can do the job. And they're excellent at what they do. And the final thing that makes it all happen is their pride. They take pride in that building. It is their building, and when you all come in there, they want you to see it to reflect what they do. And just a great group to work with, and I'm very, very proud of them. Thank you.
Real quick, I just want to make sure you know that June 18th is our custodial banquet, and that's when we'll announce the winner for the year of the Clean School Award during that time. So.
Mr. Foskey, we're going to take a picture this way?
Yeah.
Mr. Foskey, Mr. Pickens, or Mr. Hartley.
Appreciate all your hard work. Thank you for what you did.
Thank you all.
All right, Brock, are you finished?
Yes.
Thanks. We got another presentation, and Michael, come up here and stand right there. The Association of School Business Officials International recently announced that Pitt County Schools had received its Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting for the fiscal year ending 2014. And this is the only award program specifically designed for school district financial reporting, and it represents a significant achievement and reflects a high level of commitment to fiscal integrity. So to receive the award, the district must satisfy specific guidelines for effective, high-quality financial reporting recognized by school business officials. And we know if anyone is deserving of this award, and Michael as well as his staff and everyone that works with him and supports him, it's through Michael and Pitt County Schools. We appreciate it.
Let me just say, this is really the Finance Department's award. I'm just fortunate enough to be there. They're the ones who earn this award, not me. They're the ones who do the work day after day after day. We're up here in late hours, running payroll, processing accounts payable. They're the ones that really deserve all the credit, absolutely 110% of that credit, because they're the ones. I'll make sure that they get all the credit. Thank you.
Let's see. Now we have public expression. Let's see, Jim. Jim Cecil.
Good evening. Evening?
Good evening.
My name's Jim Cecil. I'm the Executive Director of the United Way of Pitt County. The goal of the United Way is to create lasting change by addressing underlying causes of community issues. We continue to provide a safety net of basic needs services, but we also look at the bigger picture, and we're trying to tackle the issue of strengthening family and strengthening the family structure, and doing that by focusing on two issues: school success and workforce development. The line that I love to say is, we all know that we all win when a child succeeds in school. We all win. Parents, kids, people without kids, businesses, everybody wins. We've been working a very close partnership with Pitt County Schools for a number of years on a number of issues around school success, specifically lowering the high school dropout rate. I'd like to share with you some information and some new developments regarding those partnerships. First, the Student Success Academy. This is a partnership between the United Way, Pitt County Schools, and a number of community-based organizations that's designed to help middle school students academically succeed. Since its creation 7 years ago, we've experienced excellent results. 3 out of 4 of the students in this program stay on track and are ultimately graduating. That figure is all the more remarkable when you consider that most of the students participating in this program, most of the students, have been identified by school personnel in the 5th grade as at risk for dropping out. I'm pleased to announce that this past August, the United Way received a state grant through the Department of Public Instruction to expand that program to serve more students and to extend the program from a summer enrichment service to a year-round after-school and summertime experience that focuses on academics, character building, and, of course, recreational services. The second program is called the Partnership for Progress. This is an after-school tutorial reading service for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd graders who are behind in their reading skills. The program is a partnership between the United Way, Pitt County Education Foundation, and the Greenville Housing Authority. We've experienced outstanding and measurable results on this program too. The vast majority of the children, overwhelming majority, improve their reading scores and move on to the next grade, pass to the next grade. The program is currently in place at 8 elementary schools in the county. I'm very pleased to announce, or I recently announced, the United Way has recently committed to raise the necessary funds to place that program in every elementary school in the county. That's our goal, is to put that program in every elementary school in the county. Third, in partnership with local parents and the Chamber of Commerce, the United Way has helped birth and is funding Parents for Public Schools of Pitt County. Parents for Public Schools of Pitt County is devoted to strengthening public education by engaging, educating, and mobilizing parents, businesses, and other interested individuals around the issues facing public education today. Fourth, we have a number of other projects that we'll be rolling out over the next few months that are centered on increasing community volunteerism in the schools and further promoting grade level reading. Finally, I would like to just share with you and make you aware of the outstanding generosity and commitment to our children and to our community that Pitt County school employees, that your employees, have recently exhibited as reflected in their just recently completed United Way campaign. This year, the district employees raised $61,138. That was a 13% increase over last year. in our campaign. Even more remarkable, 2 years ago, the campaign was raising $16,000. It is now raising $61,000. You have wonderful people here at the school district. You should be very proud of them. There were a number of incentives in that campaign, and I would like to call on our school board chair to help me pick out some of the winners, if you will. The first one, every employee who contributed $60 or more was placed in a raffle for a 39-inch flat-screen TV that was donated by Greenville TV and Appliance. And that's in the big bucket here, so if you want to pick the winner. All right. The winner of the television is Teresa Bizel, South Central High School. Second, every employee who contributed $120 or more was eligible for a raffle of a Google Chromebook. And that's, I'm not going to try to empty those out, so this is just in the this banner. But they're all in there, if you can pick one out. And the winner there is Donetta Wiley, W.H. Robinson.
All right,
And then, finally, every building and every department had a campaign coordinator, someone who's responsible, someone who volunteered to run the campaign. And every coordinator who made his or her goal, we said was eligible for a raffle to win a $50 gift card. And I will point out that 28 of the 45 buildings or departments made their goal. So there's 28 slips in here, and I ask you to pick out 3 of them, or 3. And they will win their $50 gift card.
You're crooked now.
All right. LaToya Dixon at Child Nutrition.
All right.
Elena Wingfield at Bethel. And last one, Farmville Central High School, Leslie Heath.
All right.
We will notify all of them. Again, the United Way is very proud to be helping and partnering with the school district. We are committed to change. We are committing to improving this community, and are really very, very committed and interested in helping you. The school district has been wonderful to work with. We just had our audit for that state grant. Michael's helped us so much with that. We came out of that with flying colors, and so thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. See, Ann Francisco.
Oh, do you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Got 3 minutes.
When I was in the 5th grade, I had a teacher that year that scared the heck out of me. Her name was Miss Harvey, and she was mean, and I didn't think she liked me very much. At least that is what I thought at the time. But amazingly, at the age of 47, she is one of the teachers I remember with great fondness because she taught me. Miss Harvey was the first teacher to give me a love of history. She had this book collection. They were like mini books about past leaders, past American and world wars, past heroes. And if we were good and did our work, we could go to the corner where these wonderful jewels of history and adventures were stored. There I learned about how George Washington was not only the first president of the United States, but he had fought and led in battle against the evil Brits. I learned about Benjamin Franklin and Paul Revere, and about Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King Jr., whom I had already heard of, and Frederick Douglass, whom I had not. What a wonderful, beautiful life that man lived. His story taught me that life was not always easy and to everyone, and laws were broken for him to learn how to read. I learned at the right age of 10 or 11 how education should be afforded to all. I also learned about wars that were fought, won, and lost. And through it all, Miss Harvey was guiding me with gentle nudges I didn't even feel. On the other hand, Miss Harvey did not put up with any crap. If you misbehaved in her class, you would be first sent to the corner and not the one with all the adventures. Out to the hall was the second time, and then the principal's office. And you didn't want to be sent to the principal's office, because guess what he did? He backed her decisions. And so did the parents. They backed her decisions, every one. They never questioned them. Imagine that. None of this would have happened if Miss Harvey was not given that choice to teach me. Today, our teachers have to teach to standardized tests and a system that is letting our children down. This is proven time and time again with North Carolina's ranking and scoring in this country and the United States scoring in the world. We choose right over wrong all the time. I am here as a parent of good children who is tired of the bad outwinning the good, and my child being taught to be stupid. Please do not call me tomorrow and tell me how you understand my feelings, but federal law is federal law, and I see the time and I'm almost done. You are leaders of this school system and Pitt County. Act like leaders. Make changes that will better our students in this county, will better our teachers, and better our county.
Thank you, Ms. Ann.
I'm almost through, I promise.
All right.
We need to go back to where teachers can teach, not to test, but to students. We need to let our students have a little corner where they can learn to love to learn. So I'm asking you, what will you do as leaders of this county to make a difference?
Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Let's see, Calvin Henderson. Five minutes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Calvin Henderson, and I'm president of Pitt County Branch NACP. I have our education chair, Mr. Willie Wilson, that you all know that he's been before you several times, I know, as well as the NACP. But I'm here because after picking up this morning paper and kind of following through on the issue of the open enrollment about public schools. And the NACP, I don't think there's any other organization that has fought as continuously and as hard as the NACP to make sure that every child was exposed and had an opportunity to a well-rounded equal education. We have one on our board who served as our youth chair for this council, and you presently have one of your education that served as our youth chair. And I spoke with our chair, Mr. Wilson, this morning, and I shared with him that what I read and what I observed from this article today, I felt it was important for me to come before you today and to just share with you my concern, even as I shared with the superintendent that was coming in, that I hope that tonight that you will look at the issue of the moratorium that it has been stated in that you will be discussing tonight, and I assume we voting on it. And that you would consider the fact that athletics, sports is fine in our public school system, but it is supposed to be an extracurricular. All the emphasis, I don't think enough emphasis can be placed on academics. We interact with our children in the community, and we make sure we do. Many times at the bus stops, I will approach them and say, how are you doing in school? What you doing? How are you doing on your grades, etc. They were shared with me. But I want to share with you, but I'm a little disappointed when many of them cannot effectively express themselves, especially hold a conversation, especially when it comes to reading. And I think that every child should read to a level that he can sit down and communicate with any of us. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to share with you this afternoon that this is not the case with our students. And I hope tonight that you will place more emphasis as you vote on the issue of academics. And the moratorium said that a student who transfers to open enrollment high school will have to go be a year before they'll be able to participate in any type of sports. I love sports. I grew up with 5 brothers. My mother and father was an advocate, had vision, strong vision for education for their 5 boys. And thank God we all was exposed to education. We was able to acquire education in spite of separate but equal, in many cases not equal. But we still excel and we work real hard. And I'm saying today, our children should be much farther ahead of us who are standing here today, and many who are here, who completed school over 50 years ago. They should be able to sit down and take us to another level rather than us having to sit down and tutor it and mentor them. Something is wrong with that picture. So I'm saying to you today, I hope that you will look at this moratorium and consider that, allow that 1 year to make sure that our children are succeeding academically. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see, Gwen, is it Gwen Schrock? And you're representing the D.H. Conley Athletic Booster Club. So you got 5 minutes.
I'm going to read a statement that was compiled from the Booster Athletic Booster Club from D.H. Conley High School. And this is a representation of the feelings of a lot of our students and parents at D.H. Conley. Members of the school board, I'm here tonight to speak for the 365-day moratorium for students who transfer to an open enrollment high school. I have read and understand the limited opinions that have been shared regarding fairness to the students. However, I believe there are critical points embedded in this issue that are not being discussed. First, our open enrollment practices seem illustrative of a much greater problem that this board is not effectively addressing or directing. It is observed that 4 out of our 6 schools are under-enrolled. We have 2 schools that are well over capacity. While open enrollment may be minimizing the need for mobile classrooms in the short term, it also seems it's going to be exposing many more questions about why the 2/3 of our high schools have empty classrooms. As elected officials, we expect this board to address and resolve those kinds of questions with bolder answers and just simply enabling an open enrollment. Second, an open enrollment negatively impacts the morale and the positive energy that so many of us have tried to overcome, especially in the past 2 years with issues between certain schools. The faculty and staff, especially at non-open enrollment schools, they are battling each other for what? This is supposed to be about academics, not athletics, not anything but academics. We're not quite sure we feel that way. Open enrollment cultivates a double standard of operation across different schools. If we have a coach coaching at an open enrollment school, the access to productive students and student athletes is much stronger than a closed enrollment school. Whether I actively recruit students or not, for closed enrollment schools, this becomes a deterrent for recruiting and sustaining good faculty and staff. All of our high schools should be positioned to provide the very best education and extracurricular activities for everyone in a fair and equitable manner. Open enrollment is not going to provide that. Open enrollment in Pitt County is going to expose inequalities and hurting the morale of our high schools.
If this board wishes to resolve attendance issues and make all of our high schools efficient and effective, get serious about attendance districts, facility upgrades, an advanced placement course, offerings at all of the high schools. The tax money is of the same value to each and every one of our citizens and should be not at just one high school or a selected high school or at 4 high schools. It should be offered as an advantage to serve every school in Pitt County. Now, that was the statement that was provided. Personally, I would like for you to consider the implications of the city of Greenville. There are older people staying inside the city limits of Greenville. When new families, younger children are moving to the area, they're moving to the outside of Greenville. That area is growing and growing and growing. That's why we have a problem. If the older people are living longer and staying inside of Greenville, then you have an issue. You have an issue with those kids that are grown and gone. So an enrollment and attendance at a high school will go down. It seems to me that inevitably the county's going to have to look at, in the long term, redistricting. I don't want to see it for my child. I'm hoping she gets to high school and leaves. She goes to Chicago, and we're in the same house because she doesn't want to leave Chicago. So I'm staying right where I'm at. And I know if you redistrict, that would change because we're right on the line. So I know we'd be out. But as a parent, I say, I think long term, I think you have to look at those things, whether, I mean, that's the only way to balance out Pitt County school systems and the schools. Thank you.
Thanks. Keith Cooper. You got 5 minutes.
5 minutes, thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Giving honor to God, Chairman Worth Forbes, and the Pitt County School Board of Education, I stand before you tonight with my heart filled with gratitude for the realization that our after-school program, the 3 R's, truly has made a difference in terms of promoting academic achievement for students served by our program. Let's stop making excuses for students who are failing in our schools. Moreover, let's impress upon students that anything short of excellence in education is unacceptable. We should encourage pride and improved self-esteem. As students leave their parents' living rooms, parents must insist that the boys pull up their pants, wear a belt, and comply with the rules and regulations of the school, or be held accountable for non-compliance. If you don't agree with the rules, then petition to have them changed. This instilled pride mentioned before must transcend attire and go into the classrooms. Further, I want to see more black children enroll in advanced placement and honors classes. Moreover, I want to see more black valedictorians and honor graduates on graduation day. That can be done. We often hear that it starts at home. Well, where does it end? When we established the 3 R's after school program, we were convinced that attitudes indeed determine altitudes. And students with adequate guidance and direction and support will harness and maximize their academic talents, seek educational excellence, and soar like an eagle. As Executive Director of the Benevolence Corps, I'm pleased to have a partnership with Dr. Linker and Pitt County Schools. Remember, collaboration means multiplication. Additionally, I want to thank Mildred Council and her son Logan for stopping by our after-school program at Carver Library to read to the children about a month ago. Parents must step up to the plate and raise their children in constructive ways to value education and quench their thirst for knowledge. In the 3 R's, we almost have to beg parents to sit with their children, Dr. Linger, and learn techniques to equip, engage, and empower their own children to pursue academic excellence. That's unacceptable. Very quickly, I had a situation where a 3rd grader came into our program. And I hate to say it like that, but like your grandmom used to say, he didn't know A from Adam. He would not study hard, he would not work hard, he had basically given up. We instilled in him a sense of pride. We told him that he can do it, that he, through hard work, he can be successful. We helped him, we put him on a special program. We insisted on consistency. He worked very hard, night after night. Ms. Council did his homework on time. He brought us any test scores and quizzes that he might have had. We worked with him. And his grandmother and his mother thought that he was going to fail in a grade test. Last Friday, I got a telephone call from this young man. He said, Mr. Cooper, I passed the intergrade test in both reading and math. These are the kinds of success stories that we want to hear. I encourage any school board member to visit quality after-school programs and contribute to the success of those programs. It's not about representing school districts. It's about the children throughout the county. Finally, on Tuesday, June the 16th at 3:00 p.m., we will launch our summer academic enrichment program at Carver Library. We welcome volunteers. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, we'll move on down to consent items. Motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Second.
Benji moved and Mark second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Move on down to new business, EPS committee update.
Yes, we had our meeting earlier this month. We had a quorum, and Ms. Olmsted will be giving us a summary.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The Educational Programs and Services Board Committee met on May the 18th. As Ms. Doherty stated, we had a quorum. There were 5 agenda items for updating at the meeting. The first one was an update on our advanced placement classes. In an effort to create consistency across the district, we've created an AP task force. On this task force, we have 1 AP teacher from every high school. Jess Smith, who's the AP teacher at J.H. Rose, is the facilitator of the meeting. They actually met for the first time in January of this year. They proposed some guidelines and set some expectations for themselves. And so I want to kind of go through some of their district expectations. The first thing that they wanted was an online registration, which we did. And so we did an online registration for all the courses next year, and every single student at every single high school could see all the AP course offerings, whether it was going to make necessarily at their school or not. If it was offered in the district, they saw it. That way, what we're trying to do is find out who wants what courses. Then, what we're going to do through the summer is we're going to look to see where the courses are making, and then if they're not making, we're going to plan some type, we're actually going to go through one by one and see if we can facilitate some kind of online course or bring some together at different schools so that every student that wants an AP course can have that course. They also, the expectation is that every student that takes an AP course will take the exam for the AP course, even though the exam score doesn't come in until the summertime. And along with that, they also investigated what kind of needs they were wanting as an AP teacher. They requested training and professional development. And so We actually formed 3 AP cohorts, and so they will be meeting as PLCs throughout the upcoming year. We also purchased an online platform that has multiple and a variety of AP courses on it as a resource, so that the AP teachers can have a resource to go to check to see if their rigor is there, do they need support for something if they're teaching it for the first time, those kind of things. So all that's already been done. They're also going to do this year, at the end of this year, they're going to do a student survey, asking the students how they felt about their AP course instruction. So we'll be getting that data results, and I'll be sharing it when we get those. The second thing on the agenda was just an update from me on the 10-point grading scale. As you know, high schools by the General Assembly were required to go to a 10-point grading scale. As a result of that, a lot of districts have looked at the middle schools and elementary schools possibly going to 10-point grading scale. We polled our principals. They agreed that they thought that since a lot of the other LEAs are going to a 10-point grading scale, we should also. We don't want one of our students making a 69 and an F in this district, but in Martin County they get a D. So we have decided for grades 3 through 12 to go to a 10-point grading scale. The next, the third agenda item was the update on the STEM initiatives. You should have a flow chart or a timeline that was requested on how that STEM update is going. It should look like this. I think it was just laid on your table. It's got squirrely lines and curly Q's and arrows. Basically, there's 3 separate timelines that we have. 6-8 schools, our true middle schools. As you know, Aiden Middle School, CM Epps and EB Aycock last August received STEM labs. This July, their teachers and students will be going through the Advanced Manufacturing Innovators Academy training. Also during July, we'll have the Hope Middle School, A.G. Cox will get a lab. August, Farmville Middle and Welcome Middle will get a lab. And then the next July, their teachers and students will go through that training academy. For the K-8 schools, they're not receiving a true lab setting, they're receiving a mobile cart that we call a satellite. It can be moved from classroom to classroom with lessons. And so this summer, Bethel and G.R. Whitfield will receive a satellite system. They will go through training in July to be able to utilize it and develop lessons for it. Then during the school year of 15-16, Stokes, Pactolus, Clifton, and Chicago will receive one, and then they will go through the training the following July. They have to have the equipment so they can do the training so they can follow up. Welcome Middle School. This past January, they went ahead and got the STEM school rubric from DPI to start the process to see of where they needed to go and where they were at the present time. In February, as they were going through the rubric, they realized that a lot of STEM training is project-based, performance-based, and so they realized they needed training for that. They contacted the Quality Teaching and Learning Center. In March, they set up a plan for how they're going to roll out that training. In July, their teachers, about, I think it was, I can't remember the exact number, but it was quite a few, 20-some, I think, are going to go through that 5-day training on how to do a performance-based for STEM training. In August of 2015, of course, they get their lab, the Pittsco lab that they'll get from like all the other schools' sites. And then during the year of 15-16, they start their 10-day training on more of the project-based, performance-based. And then in the next summer, we work toward some type of math science lab for the additional of the STEM school. That's what will move us toward the designation of being a STEM school. So hopefully by 15-16, we should be able to call ourselves a STEM school. The third thing on the agenda was just some location changes, just an update for where we're going to be moving some things if the budget allows. We're looking at moving our Pitt Academy, which is our alternative school, from the Boys and Girls Club, which is north of the river, to the Boys and Girls Club on Fire Tower because it's larger. That'll be our middle school and our high school. That will then open up the Boys and Girls Club north of the river. We'd like to move the Structured Day program from Rose over to the Boys and Girls Club north of the river. So that's the plan for location changes. And then the last item was just a request from the board committee on just how our open enrollment was going. They just wanted to see a spreadsheet of how many approvals had been done, how many requests, and where we were. Kay provided that spreadsheet, and there's very little discussion, just kind of a check on seeing how things were going. And then that called the meeting to be adjourned. Any questions?
Any questions?
I do, Mr. Chair. Going back to those AP courses and the opportunity for all kids to have equal access to them, how do you see the need for facilitators at the school sites?
For the online, if they're in the online. Yeah, right now, a lot of that online learning is taking place in the media center. And so all the high schools have a media clerk, which is the person responsible for check-in, check-out, and reshelving books. And then the media coordinator, which is responsible more for the instruction. So right now, we think that a lot of our centers and stuff are there. Some of them are looking at some of their positions, like we have already some lab facilitators in each of the high schools, and so that could be joined in there.
And all of this is going to have to take place at what time during the day?
Well, if it's online, it can take place whenever the student is in the schedule. If we try to put a cohort together, then we're going to have to look at some type of common scheduling across the district. We've started to look at that now. As a matter of fact, we just got in today all the different schedules of the schools to see how much they're correlated. All 6 high schools already have a period of the day that they use either for enrichment or some type of remediation. You'll hear them call it flex or smart block or something like that. The issue is they all offer it at different times. Now, we could use those periods if we could get them together. We also would like to see the schedule together so that we could put kids together at certain schools and they could travel. That's the obstacle we've got to deal with, is how to get those schedules together. And that's going to be something to deal with. But that's where we're looking at.
What kind of, may I follow up some more? What kind of travel do you envision? I know it's hard to say, but I'd like to hear some comment about that, or we could just hear some more of it at an EPS committee meeting, I guess, but.
Well, it's in the very beginning stages. So, we have looked at some sister schools, like if you can put a smaller school with a larger school and we can get the schedules halfway aligned, even if we can't do a complete schedule across the whole district, if we can marry up some sister schools, then some kids could travel to a school that's closer to them. Like, for example, South Central, Farmville Central maybe, or something. But that's really in the beginning stages. We've got to wait till registration finishes so we can see what's making, and then we start to look at what's needed. But I can follow up once I get that information.
What do you consider as making?
15 is what we're looking at. We've got some schools.
Who determined that?
Well, really, it depends on the schedule of the high schools. In other words, if they have the staff that they can get scheduled for a class to make, then they should offer the class. If you've got 4, 5, 6, 7, then we will try to accommodate that at the district level. But if they can try to make it, that's what we expect them to do.
My question is, how we educating the public? I think I asked it before, but I think we really need to make sure parents really understand what the new thing is, and that is so important for their children, and they can do this, and just really stress it, because a lot of times when people don't know, because they haven't had that advantage in the past, on a select few got that opportunity. And so I would just like to figure out how we can help as board members, or how the community can really raise awareness of this new opportunity, which is going to save you money down the road as you enter college, and just give them all the positives of taking AP courses and testing out of them, and how different colleges accept so many and all those kinds of things. So that's so important, because I remember being a parent and learning not quite enough the first round, but by the time I had the second son, I had it. But, so we need to do some real education on that, so that parents will know, and don't let the children be the boss. You make the decision as parents, because sometimes children say, I don't want to do that, but they don't know they don't want to do it, they have never done it. So that was my philosophy, and if we can somehow, let parent know you're in charge, and your child's role is to work the books, and you're to provide those other basic necessities for them. And so I would just like to know, what can I do? I'll speak for myself, to rally that and just, and I'm going to do my little part, but if you have some ideas of helping us to get the word out, along with what the staff is going to do, we know you're going to do a good job, but we want to know how we can help enhance all of that, because it's very important. I've experienced it personally, and I know it saves money and time when you get out of high school, and it challenges you, and like the arts she was talking about today, all those kinds of things is making well-rounded global children that will be competing against the world. So it's not just about Pitt County, it's not about the state or the United States, it's the entire world. Our children are being prepared to compete with and against. So we got to do more to promote that. So I want to be one of your promoters, marketers, whatever I can do. And I'm still learning too as a board member. But I know we can do this, and I can see in a year from now that we're going to have more kids that didn't even know that they existed, number one, and then now they know they exist, they're getting involved, they're taking advantage, and parents are going to be much more happier because those brains are not being challenged enough.
Well, you're echoing what Ms. Williams and Ms. Doherty was also talking about. How do we get the word out? How do we let everybody know? And how do we let the kids themselves know that they can do this?
Oh, yeah.
And so we've been discussing that in EPS also.
Very good.
Let me just say this. I know when I was over at Farmer Central, one thing that we tried to do was increase the minority population. We used that program, AP Potential. And I was involved as the principal in scheduling and looking at these AP students, the ones who had never been in an AP class. When they scored a certain level on that AP Potential test, it said that they would succeed in this particular AP class. And it took the counselors, it took the cooperation from the teachers, and as well as myself as the principal, to put that student in that class. Their parents would have never thought that they could be in an AP class.
That's right.
But they succeeded. They may have made a C, but they took an AP class, and they felt good about it, and it motivated them to be in more AP classes the next year. But all I can say is there's got to be a hands-on aspect in it at the school level for this to be successful. Because if you leave it up to the students, they're not going to sign up for it.
Exactly, right.
And when they find out that they can succeed in an AP class that they've never been in, and they feel good about themselves, and so do their parents.
Right.
And we really increased the minority population in our classes, because prior to that, it was this student can't succeed in this class, this student can't succeed. We found out, and the teachers found out, that they could succeed. And another thing, that the teachers put in a safety net. They didn't water down the AP class, but there was a safety net put in place to help those students succeed. It was all about succeeding.
Mr. Chairman, and I like the fact that you made that point, but that's one of the things that we had discussed, for the past few years when it comes to AP and honors classes. But I also would like to emphasize the fact that we don't have those administrators that took the initiative like you did to just invite students, you know, to search out those students that think they can't do it. And they don't search out those parents, you know, that don't know that their kids are capable. And that's one of the things that, you know, we must emphasize also, how to find them, how to get the parents involved, and how clubs are developed and the interests of the students at all times. Keep that on the burner at all times. So therefore, we can grow our programs, grow the interests of the students into this. But if we don't have administrators nor teachers that only see certain sectors of kids succeeding and not the whole rainbow of students that are going to be successful, then we have to monitor who we're putting in these positions. And that's going to be very critical. And that's what I have to say about it.
Chairman, may I add a comment?
Yeah.
I'd like to say that I've been so impressed since I joined the board and went to my first CPS committee meeting when I first heard about this initiative. And when Ms. Williams and Ms. Council and I attended a North Carolina School Board Association meeting, we all heard directly from what do they call it, the AP, the folks at College Foundation. College Board. Directly from them about how
The importance.
few children in the United States and North Carolina actually take advantage, and that's every ethnic and racial group, using that predictor score. With, every 10th grader takes the PSAT, and at the top right-hand corner of the front page, there's a predictor index, and with a code that every parent and student can go online and look at, okay, my child will have a 50% success rate at taking this AP course, or 60% or 70%. It's interactive. It's a great thing. It's a wonderful tool. And I agree with you that so many parents don't know about that.
Don't know.
We get a lot of paperwork. We're overwhelmed. And I think the kids don't know. They don't realize it. And I mean, even my own daughter, like, I don't know if I can do this, Mom. I'm like, yeah, you can. You got to try. And it's just, it's very common. And another thing I'd like to commend you all on, I believe this was at our last EPS committee meeting, but you didn't mention it. I believe we've realigned the student services staff. Maybe you can speak to that, to try and support this, to make them more academic focused.
We've moved the guidance counselors under curriculum, so that we're taking them through training on scheduling, what courses there are, you know, what, those kind of things, like how do you predict who goes in there, that kind of thing. So we're doing several things to try to make sure that everybody's aware and how to best serve the kids and how to best move them.
Okay, thank you. Beth Ann going, or you?
Beth Ann, her father passed away this afternoon suddenly. So I am going to, she gave me some highlights, so I'm just going to highlight it. And you have the application in front of you. It is up for approval, for a vote for approval. But let me highlight a few things, because she did send this to me this afternoon. 7,763 students are enrolled in CTE this year. The technical attainment for last year was 84.1%, which is higher than the state, which is 82%. Students earned 3,485 credentials in 21 different areas. Pitt County was 5th in the state. The career and technical organizations were busy this year, and I think y'all saw that when y'all saw all those people come last month. We are going to host a construction career day again in this September, and if you've not gone to one of those and watched the kids drive a bulldozer or backhoe or whatever they are, all are, it's really fun. We've also got some really great partnerships. As you know, we have college and career promise in our schools. We have electrical at Farmville Central. We've got welding at Ayden-Grifton. The Pitt Community College and the United Way are grant funding us so that we can test all of our seniors in work keys. We also are training our students now with sample questions and some bell ringers and stuff for work keys. The planned expenditures, she said, for this year have been really focused on building teacher capacity, because a lot of the curriculums are changing in CTE, and so she's gone through and spent some money and some time in training. They're also working on building some really strong partnerships. Of course, the STEM Labs has been a CTE project, and of course, A.G. Cox, Farmville, Hope, and Welcome will receive theirs this summer. I don't know if any of you heard about it, but ThinkGate, who was the company that handled the CTE exams, basically went bankrupt. They sort of crashed. And so within a 2-day period, we were given notice, and we had to print off every CTE exam on paper so that we could give it out paper and pencil. And all the CTE courses exams were given last Friday. We have to mail off the scan sheets. We have to mail them off to the testing office in DPI. They're going to scan them, score them, and send them back to us supposedly in 10 days. That's why we had to take it so early. So if you hear anything about somebody not having to show up for an exam, it was probably a CTE course that they took it last Friday. And West because we had to. And she did want to say this publicly, and I fully agree with her. When all that was happening, when ThinkGate was going bankrupt, I don't know how many of you know how companies do that, but they basically first said, we're going to be closing our doors at 5 o'clock on such and such a day. Make sure you get all your stuff out of our software platform. And then all of a sudden it became the next day at 12. Then it became, backed up another day at 5. And all the CTE teachers are gearing up for exams, and they are having to stop and print. And at 10:30 on a Wednesday, she sent out the last email to the CTE teachers and said, you got to have them printed because they're shutting the doors at 12. And they got it done. And, there was no freaking out. I mean, they said, they just handled it so well. And then they gave the exams. And if you've not heard about it, that just tells you what kind of folks they are, because it was major. And we have 2,000, what'd she say, 7,000 students taking these exams, and they had to do that to get that done. So I was really, really in awe of them. They really handled it well. But anyway, she also wants to remind you that if you're on the Pitt County Schools website, if you will go to CTE and look at what's happening, you get to see pictures of lots of stuff that's going on in CTE. So if I could bring this up for approval, an application for approval.
Anybody?
Mr. Chair, I move we approve it.
Second.
Let's see, Mary, let's see. Benji made the motion, and it was a tie.
Yeah, it's all right. Go ahead.
Let's say Mary.
That's fine.
Mary seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Finance Committee update, Benji and Michael.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I asked Michael to come forward. We met last week. We did have a quorum present, and we've got 2 or 3 items that we'll bring before the board at this time. Michael.
Good evening. Last week at our Finance Committee meeting, we discussed and voted to recommend approval to the full board Budget Amendment Number 2 for the 2014-15 school year. A copy of that budget amendment is included on pages 14 through 21 of your board material. I'll hit the highlights of the discussion that we went through last week. The budget per Budget Amendment Number 2 stands at approximately $233.67 million, which is a 0.51% increase from Budget Amendment Number 1. Operating funds comprise approximately 90% of the total budget. That's state, local, and federal dollars come in approximately $211.8 million. As we've discussed in the past, the instructional component of the budget consists of the largest component coming in at 73.78% at $172.4 million. We also have supporting expense of approximately $36.6 million, which includes custodial salaries, facility maintenance, repairs and maintenance to the building, as well as the utility expenses, fuel for our facilities, all the transportation costs for the school system with concerns to bus transportation, as well as liability insurance. We are highly dependent on salaries and benefits. It comprises over 82% of our overall budget for this fiscal year ending. If we look at the major highlights of the changes from the last budget, we had a $263,000 allocation from the state in order to operate this summer's reading camps. It came in at $263,269. After-school quality grant, which Pitt County Schools is the fiscal agent for, from McLeod's Computer Skills out of Winterville. They are actually operating after-school programs within our schools in the afternoon and across the county. We are actually the fiscal agent for that moving forward for the next 3 years. We're able to bill that back to Pitt County Schools to cover the operating costs of that. It's $419,520. The STEM labs that we talked about here tonight, that's being funded through the cooperation of East Carolina and Pitt County Schools and Pitt Community College, that's $206,218 is included in our budget to basically request reimbursement back from East Carolina University for the cost of the labs that we implemented this current fiscal year. We are also continuing to see increases in our Medicaid revenue. This budget amendment right here recognizes another $150,000 increase in Medicaid billings that we receive for services provided to our Medicaid eligible students. And also, as we talked about, Mr. Cecil talked about from the United Way, the 21st Century Grant, which Pitt County Schools has been a part of over the last several months. We have $50,000 worth of budget included within this budget amendment that we're paying on behalf of the 21st Century Grant and then getting reimbursement back from the United Way to help them administer that grant. Overall, this budget amendment carries us closer to the fiscal year end. We ran our 11th payroll this past week, and we're working feverishly to close out this year, hopefully by the middle of June. So that's where we are. We'll take any questions.
We'll have a motion.
I move that we approve amendment number 2 to the budget.
Seconded.
Benji made the motion, Caroline seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass.
The next item on the agenda was a conversation about board compensation. If you remember back to the retreat that we had in March, the question I think Mr. Forbes asked that I bring information back to the board about the breakdown of the Board of Education budget. In April, at the April board meeting, and with concerns to a discussion on the overall budget process, I did a breakdown of the Board of Education budget, which had included approximately $30,600 that had been allocated to board stipend within the budget and a $15,000 board travel budget for a total of $45,600. It's a little bit different from what we discussed at the Finance Committee meeting. I had to adjust it for some technical issues. But it come in at $45,600 between board travel and the board stipend. And the question related at that point in time, how was the budget changing based on the fact that the board had reduced from 12 members down to 9. You have at your seat a handout that's called Board of Education Compensation, and this is basically a summary of what was discussed at that Finance Committee meeting last week that was recommended to be brought to the full board here for further discussion. And I'll just walk through this step by step. It starts again with the current 2014-15 budget as was presented back in the April board meeting for this current fiscal year. That's not next year, but the current fiscal year. $30,600 in board stipend and travel of $15,000 for a total of $45,600. In that middle section, what I did is broken down the board stipend prior to the board reduction and then after the board reduction. That first column there, prior to the board reduction, there were 11 non-chair board members that at a $200 per month compensation, the total annual pay was $26,400. Now, if you look to the right of that, after board compensation with only 8 non-chair members, compensation only comes to $19,200. The board chair stipend is set at $350 per the current year budget for a total of $4,200 under both scenarios, for a total stipend prior to the board reduction of $30,600 and a total stipend budget of $23,400 after the board reduction. That leaves approximately $7,200 within the current budget that is unallocated. If you look at the bottom, based off 9 board members at $7,200, that breaks down to $800 per board member, or approximately $66.67 per month. Now, if you drop to the next page on the back side of that, basically this is a scenario that was discussed at the Finance Committee, and again recommended to come back to the full board for further discussion. And at that Finance Committee meeting, it was discussed to basically reduce the travel and education budget of $15,000 down to zero. Under this scenario, the redirected travel and education budget would go into the board stipend line item. This would increase the board stipend from $200 per month to $350 per month for all board members, including the board chair, and also include a $70 per month travel stipend. Now, the way that breaks down, again, is $350 per month plus $70 in the middle of the page for a total monthly compensation of board members of $420. At 12 months, that equals $5,040 per board member, and for 9 board members, that's $45,360. 3/4 of the way down the page, you see a comparison to a current monthly stipend of $200 compared to a monthly stipend of $420. That's an increase of $220 per month, with an overall annual increase going from $2,400 per board member to $5,040 per board member, for an increase of $2,640. And just to summarize the scenario as it was discussed at the Finance Committee meeting, what you've got there is the current budget of $30,600. That's this current fiscal year, with board travel of $15,000 for a total of $45,600. The redirection of the travel budget would increase the board stipend to about $14,760, and would also leave $240 left unallocated that the committee discussed would go towards covering the fixed cost increases within this year's next year's budget. For a total budget, adjusted budget for next year, a board stipend of $45,360, and then a $240 to cover fixed cost increases. So the total stays the same, $45,600 from the current proposal to any adjusted proposal into next year. And again, that was discussed at length at the Finance Committee meeting, and it was presented to come forward with further discussion amongst the board here tonight.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Benji?
Okay. Mr. Chair, we know that compensation for the board is a topic that could be somewhat controversial. This board's compensation hasn't been looked at or changed since 1987. There was a couple of times that we were going to take a look at it around the 2008-2009 school year. At the same time, that's when the economy went south. We did not think that at that time it would be good to even look at it, and we did not. But with the board's reduction in size, and with the responsibilities increasing, and with the budget of the board not changing any, taking monies from anywhere else, and even at the extent of putting $240 back somewhere else that could be needed somewhere else, and at the same time wanting the public to be fully aware of what we're considering, we were understanding that there's a strong possibility that there would be a meeting on June the 22nd. And at that time, we would like to put this item on the agenda as a line item to discuss and make a decision on at that time.
Well, per GS 115C-38, the board does not have the authority to change its compensation.
Correct.
And expense allowance, it's got to be done by the county commissioners. So basically what we're doing is discussing it.
That's right.
And then the county commissioners would give it final approval.
Correct. The past history, Mr. Chairman, if I might go further, is that, and some of the board members that are sitting around here know more about this than I do, but that the county commissioners did give approval for this board to be able to do that at a time when we began to televise our board meetings. And we have met that qualification. And I do think that some officials from Pitt County Schools have had discussions with the county commissioners, and they have no problem with this. Is that a fair statement?
Statement would be that it was approved by the county commissioners that that this could happen.
Yeah.
Years ago, going back to 80, Curtis, going back to 2008, 9, 10?
Yeah, well, it was around that time.
2008?
It was somewhere around that time.
But now, the way I understand it, they would have to, if we discuss, they would still have to have
My interpretation of the statute is that the commissioners would have to approve the actual amount.
amount.
It was, go ahead.
Mary?
Michael, I'm reading this right here, and you can check too, Deborah. I think the authorization back in 2007, 2008, I think it was the county commissioners had given us authorization to get, I think, half their salary.
And I'd have to
Or
go back and
something
look-
like
I'd have
that.
something like that.
It was something like that.
I'd have to go back and look at their minutes.
If I'm remembering
Yeah.
correctly, it was
Yeah.
something like half their salary. And this right here would take all of the money, am I correct, from travel?
Under this scenario, yes. it would.
Uh-huh, it would take, so that would be no yearly conferences for us? We would have to pay out of our own pocket for that?
That's under this scenario.
Under this scenario, so we wouldn't receive any training, we wouldn't be able to go to conventions, we would not be able to go to conferences or any PLC training of our own without it coming out of our pocket.
If this were the scenario that the
That we
board
were to go
approved,
with.
that would, yes, you are right on target there.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Anyone else?
So,
Ms. Mildred?
okay.
The question I have is that all board members need training whether they get it or not. There is no way that we can be competitive and say we are the leaders of Pitt County schools and never go for training for anything. Now, if you choose not to go as a board member, that's your choice. But to be in line with other members, and we are members, I believe, is that right, Dr. Lincoln? Do we not belong to North Carolina School Boards Association? We are paying a fee to belong, and if you're going to pay a fee to belong and they're training you and you get a chance to interact with other board members across the great state of North Carolina, it makes no sense for anyone to have to pay out of their pockets to go to 2 board meetings a year in the state, and we've never been to a national one since I've been here. And that's really doesn't make good tax sense, I don't think, because we are the leaders of the Pitt County schools, and if we are not trained, how do we expect us to learn so we can pass things along to help the children? Because that's how we learn. Just to give you an example of that tonight for you public that's listening, that's how we got this good information on the AP.
That's right.
That AP wasn't just for the rich and the wealthy. The AP could be for anybody that had a brain that could learn it.
That's right.
And so this is just one example of that, and that's why we're where we are right now on making sure every child that comes through our system can be super prepared if he or she wants to be and their parents want them to be and their parents learn the process to make it happen, that can happen. So if we're going to be on a board of any kind, and I've been on one before, I served 22 years with the City of Greenville, and I went to everything they had to offer, and I learned some things, and I brought some things back to this community that still exists today. So you don't just go to be going to have a good time, you go to learn and make things happen. And I have a good track record in this city with that, and I'm trying to do the same thing here with the children because, so we need a budget for travel, and then we need a budget for our little moving around town to buy gas, to get your hair done, because I haven't had mine done tonight.
I don't need that in my budget.
But I'm
If that
saying
helps the
just to be, I mean, because you run
No,
back
this
and forth across county, and gas is not free, nothing is free. And when I start serving, I never expected anything. This was 22 years plus ago. But it does help if you gotta burn your gas to at least get compensated for the minimum things, so. We do need training, Mr. Chair. So we need a training budget and we need a stipend budget to do at least the basic things. The county commissioners has one, the city council has one, and this is all over the United States. So we are no different than anyone else. We need to be learning. And for those that want to go, fine. Those that don't want to go, fine. I want to go if I'm going to be a part of something, because you never stop learning. And if you don't go nowhere, then you don't learn nothing. Everybody don't know everything. And so I just like to say that to express myself. And I'm serious. But that's the truth. You got to learn. I mean, on your jobs, you have training your staff, needs training your board. Everybody needs training. Sometimes you cannot sit here in Greenville, North Carolina, go nowhere and do nothing and be a good leader. I'm just sorry. Pitiful. So that's my opinion.
Now,
Thank you.
summarizing what you said
Okay, thank you.
was basically you're saying that there needs to be a compensation budget to increase the compensation that we have, as well as a travel.
You need a travel
And-
allowance, right? That's
and
two different
conference.
things, right? Because motel costs, food costs, and travel costs, those are the three basic things when you go to a conference that you
Right,
have to pay for. And I know some of us have rolled together, we've even shared rooms and all of that, trying to cut down on the cost, but, you know, so some people don't even understand all that, what you do to make it work. When I used to travel, I have friends in other states. I said, I'm gonna spend the night with you tonight to save my city some money. We did all those kinds of things to make it work. We shared rooms with each other to cut the motels in half. We did that. 2 ladies together, there was no problem with us doing it. We traveled all over I didn't miss a meeting. I went 22 years and I brought back good information. And we made some things happen in the city. Things you see in Greenville today that I was a part of, it didn't just happen by sitting home. You had to go somewhere and learn and see what other people was doing so that you could bring some productive things back for your community to be successful. You can't just sit home and know it all. I don't care how rich you are. You don't know it all just because you're rich, you all. You don't know it all because you're poor. But you go and learn so you can be the best stewards over the taxpayers' money as possible. That's what you do. And I know when I went, I made things happen. And we have, it's to show.
Right.
And I don't get into that, and that's what I'm trying to do here. And we're talking about children this time. It's not just about one segment, it's our future.
Right.
Because when I leave this system, I'm hoping one day that every child, as they graduate, they walk across those stages. When they graduate, they will have a plan. And that's what we need to be trying to figure out. When those children walk across those stages next week, everybody needs to be going somewhere to college, to the 4-year college, the 2-year college, to military, a job or somewhere. They should have a place to go within the next week or at least by the fall of that year. It makes no sense to have an educational system and you don't have a plan for your child. Every child needs to have a plan, and that's why you go and learn, because these things have already been done, you all. We haven't done them, but somebody has. That's how we learn about the AP. We talk to the AP board. And how many rest of y'all have talked to the AP board?
I've talked to them.
I mean, in person. I mean, how many have you, that's how we learn this information. You know, I mean, we don't go to meetings just to be, you know, going. I mean, this is the real McCoys. They told us what we need to be doing to help more students.
That's true.
And this is how we got to this point.
And STEM too.
Mark?
And STEM as well. Thank you.
I think one of the interesting points is, I know personally I've had to deny travel to teachers to various things over the past several years because of budget cuts. And I know when we did the superintendent search, that was an integral part of this position. I didn't bill for a single dollar in terms of travel, lodging, meals, anything, because that was a part of this position that we knew could possibly come into the position when we ran for the position. There are PTA presidents that are serving in this district that don't receive compensation. There are booster parents that serve in these positions that don't receive compensation. What this particular thing is talking about doing is reshuffling the funds that are already in the budget, which I don't have an issue with. And I think to say that the travel that I know many of us are not
requesting reimbursement for would be built in as a part of the position, I think is fair, especially looking at neighboring counties and what their board members are paid and their stipends are considerably more than ours is. I don't have a problem with what this is, but I think to complain that we're cutting out travel, the travel is being fronted to you without having to request reimbursement. I think the kind of long-winded explanation of travel being a necessity for this position, I think being out in the schools and listening to our constituents' concerns is the best education any of us can get. Conferences, I think you can learn from some of them. A lot of them, in my opinion, are junkets. But in any particular position, I don't have a problem with what's been outlined, but I think a lot of it comes with the turf. And love it, like it, hate it, it is what it is.
I was just going to, Mark pretty much took my point about, I mean, the increase would be $2,640, and that travel is built into that compensation, so that this way you don't have to ask for it. And, you know, looking at other counties and looking at what they do in surrounding areas, this pretty much puts us on par with those counties. And the other thing that really concerns me too is, you know, we've got, Mark said it very well, you've got teachers all the time trying to build into their own in-service and workshops and those kinds of things, and a lot of times they don't get the opportunity to be able to do that unless they front some of it themselves. And I think it's at least as fair for us to be able to do that same sort of thing and show that same commitment. So I would be in favor of what Michael has put together here. At the same time, though, I do think that this needs to be placed on the agenda of the next board meeting and not voted on tonight, so that the public itself will have a very, very familiar idea with what we're trying to do, and that we're very, very transparent with what we're trying to do.
Second.
Mary.
Billy can go.
No, he said
his motion.
Mary.
Well, I asked my questions of you, Michael, about travel, PLC for board members. I've been on this board going on 7 years. I've attended state conventions and several PLCs to help me bring back information concerning educational things that will benefit all the students in the district. I also have been on this board, like I said, for 7 years, and no board members had ever attended. And that's got to be accountable. You have to know what's going on, and I just personally feel that you have to know what's going on within the state to know what will benefit our students throughout every district, not just my particular district, but every district. And in order to do that, you have to see how other districts work. You have to see what other districts are doing to improve their students' educational interests. What's the best interest of all students throughout this state and throughout other counties. And I have to agree with Ms. Mildred, we don't know everything. It's still always a learning process. And if we don't do better, we can't expect our students to do better. If we can't glean knowledge from across the state and look at what other districts, other superintendents are doing, then we fall short. We fail our students when we don't try to learn. So this list, I hope it's printed online. I mean, if this is not printed online, to let the public know what we get paid a month as compared to surrounding counties, with the added responsibility and decrease of the size of the board.
Oh, yes, and I forgot to mention that. I think Carol had printed out a copy of the...
Yes, we do.
Okay, you got that? Okay.
Yes, we
all right.
do. And I think it is to say, to give the public a good range of what we make and what we're compensated per month and what surrounding districts are being compensated for. So if we could put that online, that would be helpful and help to explain the difference. So we tabling this for the next meeting.
Well, there's not a motion to table.
Oh, okay.
It's a recommendation, Mr. Chair, that we place this on the agenda for the next meeting. You can do that with consent. If you don't get consent, then I will make a motion that we do so with this same information.
Second.
I'll make the motion, that'll make it quicker.
Benj, excuse me, can I ask you a question?
Okay?
Yes.
Does this include conferences to attend, or this is just their little board?
This will allow you to go anywhere you want to go, Mills.
No.
Oh, I think you're talking about the...
No, I'm saying the sheet that you've done. Are you showing what other?
I didn't do that sheet. I don't know where that sheet came from.
Okay. Because I think it would be good that this.
What you're
that would
saying
be
is to
online.
find out if this, do they get a
Oh, yeah, I know
staff
they
development
get it. Oh, yeah, they get it.
budget as
Yeah.
well as this
As
compensation?
well as
Every education assistant gets a budget.
Right.
They
For
do.
travel.
For
For
travel.
travel.
They have one. It's maybe different thing, but they have a budget that's totally different than your little compensation. That's two different things.
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure that.
That's out there too.
Could you put that on there, Michael, or whoever did this, so they could see that, you know?
Barrett got it.
Okay.
Sean?
Just one quick question, Mr. Forts, perhaps you could just clarify this. What we would be putting on the table for the next, with this motion, for the next board meeting, and eventually asking what I'm understanding is the county commissioner's approval for, would require no new money to our budget, no new local monies, no new tax dollars, no new anything. It's already
Sean,
there.
as a matter of fact, Mr. Chair, if I may, we'll be putting 200, I know it sounds small, but we would be putting 240 back into the general fund for Michael to redistribute in other areas.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Any other questions before we move on? You have anything else, Mike? No. All right.
I made.
You made the motion. Any other discussion?
She had, you have a question?
To make this presentation
at the next meeting.
So the public has time for input.
So they have time to discuss it and
What's on the
express.
floor?
Make your motion again.
Okay, I move that we provide a line item at the next board meeting, which hopefully will be June 22nd, that will include board compensation changes as it reflects off the page that we were presenting tonight.
To be forwarded to the county commissioners.
To be forwarded to the county commissioners.
Billy's second. And we've discussed, all those in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Mayor, you oppose? Okay. One opposition. All right, let's move on. See, Mary and Delilah.
Dr. Jackson.
Good evening, everyone. We had a very, very short committee meeting on the 26th of May, and this particular meeting was just an update. We are, of course, in the throes of allotment process while waiting for the budget to be approved. We did have a House version of the budget to come out that looked very good and promising, but we're also in preparation in case that does not come to fruition with the Senate budget. And one of the main items that we're watching are our teacher assistants, because we do know that that has been an area that's been presented several times in the last couple of years. So we are watching that group so that that particular line item, so if any changes come, that we'll be willingly prepared to enact whatever is needed. We do have in our certified area 5 people that need to be placed into positions based on the reduction in allotments from the certified staff. I have secured positions for those staff members if things do not occur and open up in their current building. So that was the main things that we talked about in our committee meeting. And we also talked about, as part of the budget update, the $583,000 of low wealth money that is not presently in our budget and how that will be handled, which I think equates to about 12 positions. So we are looking at the budget very closely. So basically, The Human Resources Department is in a standstill until further action is needed. So that is the basis of our meeting that we had. Are there any questions? Thank you, very short. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Operation.
My mouse go?
Matt?
Uh-oh. Something's falling out of my... Okay. We did meet on May 14th for our Operations Committee meeting. We did have a quorum. The committee asked me to present 2 items to the full board for review tonight. Hold on, I'm having difficulties. There we go. The first item that we did talk about, Synergistics came in and gave us an update on where we were with the Synergistics program. We did start that program in August. We had a 6-month quick start period where all of the savings that were came into us from this program went directly back to the school system. February 1st started our 1-year performance period. At that point is every dollar we save, we split with Synergistics 50-50. So they gave us a great presentation slideshow. I've taken that down and broken it into 4 basic slides to get us the gist of where we are with this program so far. As you can see with this slide, our utility cost distribution, our total utility cost for our base year is a little over $5 million. That's a typical year for us in the county. 82% of that is electricity, 11% is fuel, 6% is water sewer, and 2% is stormwater. Since the inception of this program in August, you can see the trends here posted on the screen for you. The red line indicates our current year from beginning of August when we started this program, Synergistics, our electrical usage, and the blue line indicates our base year, what we're basing everything off of with this. As you can see, the red line currently with this program, we are trending down in our electrical usage throughout the county. So what does this translate into? We actually have cost savings in electricity, heat and oil, and we have a little spike in our water and sewer, which we are working on now to figure out why we have a spike and we're not going down. We will find that and get that under control. So electrical, our total cost savings there is $186,863. Fuel oil, $91,240, and a negative $3,500 there. Our quick start period, from August until January, we saved $98,406, which is 1.9% of our annual utility cost of $5 million. Our performance period, year 1, from February to March, so 2 months worth, we have saved 3.2%, or $158,164, giving us a total savings thus far of $256,569 with this program. So that is 5% of our annual electrical, water, heating, sewer costs that we have. We've actually been in this program since August. We're sharing 2 months' worth. So our dollar figure here of $158,000 is actually 22% of what Synergistics has projected for us to save in the first year. We are at $719,000 is our projected savings during the first performance year of the contract, and right now we are at 158, which is 22% of that, which is a very good program. Hats off to all of you guys for voting this in, getting it going. All the support we have at all the schools. It's been a great program so far, and we look forward to continued savings and continuing to bring this savings back into the school system, into the classroom where it needs to go. Are there any questions on that?
Mr. Council.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the program when we went to Pat Tolis Elementary.
Yes, ma'am.
Last year.
The energy savings program.
To hear them to.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And as Sean likes to point out every time, this has not cost Pitt County Schools a dime.
That was a good presentation. So we have really benefited us.
Yes,
by
ma'am. We are making
contacting
savings, and it's not costing us upfront money.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on that? The next item on the agenda to bring before the full board is we have been approached by Piedmont Gas. They are asking us to grant them an easement at our bus garage property. On the screen is the aerial view of the bus garage property.
We have penciled in the area of the proposed easement here. This easement will be for natural gas lines. They do have other gas lines in the area. This will be an upgrade to their system. This is pretty much an easy path, or an easier path than across the road for Piedmont Gas to actually go to. They are offering $132,000 for us to grant them this easement at the backside of our property. Now, I've done some legwork on this. I have talked to our appraiser about this property. The appraiser does not feel that this would adversely affect the value of our property. He also feels that the $132,000 offer for this easement is a very generous offer. So with that being said, the committee decided to bring this before the full board and kind of get the opinion of the board on which way we would like to go. We do have documents from them for the easement. Ms. Stagner has reviewed those and given us some comments. We have some comments back from the operations committee that we do want to send back to Piedmont Gas for some adjustments, making the negotiations on this if the board feels that they would like to move forward pursuing this grant of easement.
Any discussion here? Mark.
Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate to offer a motion for us to accept the offer from Piedmont Natural Gas? Ms. Stagner?
No, what Mr. Johnson's asking for tonight is just whether the board would like him to pursue negotiations. Once the terms of the final easement would be finalized by the administration, he would bring back an actual document for you to approve that would grant the easement.
Very good. I would say move as soon as you can on that.
Mary?
How would this affect, that piece of property has been for sale for a minute, so how will it affect?
Our appraiser I've met with our appraiser, and he does not feel that granting this easement to Piedmont Gas would negatively affect the value of our property.
All right.
We still have rights to the property there at the easement. If we wanted to put a driveway there, a fence up around it, whatever, we still have all those rights to the property.
All right.
And in the final negotiated, you're going to have that in writing?
Yeah, it's in writing in the paperwork already,
All right.
yes, sir.
That'll work.
Sean?
Yeah, I'm very much in favor with, being on the operations committee with everything I've heard on this. In fact, to build on what Mr. Witcher was saying, I'd like to see it move,
As quickly as
sooner rather than later. So what I would like to propose is a motion, let me know if this would help, Mr. Johnson, is that when this is negotiated, that we go ahead and give you and the superintendent the authority to continue to move forward with this without delay, so that it wouldn't have to come back.
Again, it would need to come back for the board to actually grant, because the board is the owner, for the board to actually grant the easement.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
We will move forward and bring you back a final negotiated easement.
All right, thanks. Okay, the recommendation of the reappointment to PCC Board of Trustees, Dr. Massey, there was a letter included in your packet that he sent in recommending
Mr. Chairman,
Craig.
having read Dr. Massey's letter, I make a motion to reappoint Dr. Peter Craigle to the Pitt Community College Board of Trustees.
Second.
Mark made the motion and Sean seconded. Any discussion? Council?
I thought we said, when we appointed the individuals to the board, that they would be coming to give us some updates. Are we going to follow up on that, or is that just a dead deal?
Well, they did come once.
This is a reappointment.
Well, I know,
They
it's I'm
did.
just asking
Right.
for future, when are we going to hear from those that we appointed
I
last?
think we need to just talk.
We need to
Dr.
put them
Massey,
on
see
the
about
agenda so we can
get
hear
them on
what
the
they are
agenda.
doing.
what they're doing.
That's right. I read in the paper, but I would like to hear from them since
All right,
we
yes.
had
We'll get that
confidence
on
to
the
appoint
agenda.
them.
And this is just a reappointment.
Okay.
Yes. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mayor? One opposition. Okay, let's see, Parents for Public Conversations, final report.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Herring, and I'm president of the board for Parents for Public Schools of Pitt County. I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Education, Dr. Linker, for having us here tonight to share our results with you. I believe they were distributed in your board packet, and everyone has a copy, but we do have extra copies here if members of the media or the audience would like to have one. First, I just wanted to tell you a few things about Parents for Public Schools. Many of you are familiar with the work that we're trying to do here in Pitt County, but for those of you that may not be aware, we're a nonprofit 501c3 organization. We're made up of parents, grandparents, community members, and community organizations. And our mission is to strengthen Pitt County schools by engaging, educating, and mobilizing our community. We engage our community through 3 initiatives: our parent engagement program, which I'm proud to say we just graduated our first class of 16 members from 13 different schools throughout the district; through our community conversations, which I'm about to share with you; and through our school tours, where we get business leaders, parents, legislators into our schools and see all the good things that are happening every day. The purpose of our community conversations is to better understand what the community perceives about and what their opinions are of public education in Pitt County. We wanted to create an informal environment for our stakeholders to engage in constructive dialogue with the district. And then finally, we wanted to share that information with the district to meet some of the needs defined through the accreditation process. Our support has been widespread for community conversations. I'd like to take a moment to thank my board of directors and specifically Caroline Doherty, who was on our board last year and who chaired community conversations for our organization as a volunteer. I'd also like to thank those who financially supported our work: the Smith Family Foundation, United Way of Pitt County, the Greenville-Pitt County Chamber of Commerce, individual donors, and the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation. Our community conversations had several groups that we worked with because we did want widespread input from the district. We worked with businesses, education professionals, parents, and civic groups. Greenville-Pitt County Chamber leadership class participated, DSM Dyneema, Pitt County school principals, ECU education faculty, parents from a Mexican Student Success Academy, parents at the Fire Tower and Grady White Boys and Girls Club locations, A.G. Cox, and at our PPS annual network meeting. We also had civic organizations in Pitt County, the Greenville Kiwanis and the Noon Rotary Club. So through the 11 sessions that we had in the district, we had residents without children, we had parents with children in private schools, parents with children in our public schools, we had grandparents, and then we also had professional educators. Some of the questions we asked: what is the most pressing need facing Pitt County schools? What school reform efforts or improvements in our district are underway? What should effective parent involvement look like, and how can Pitt County schools encourage that kind of involvement? Why do parents send their kids to our public schools, and why do they choose not to? And then finally, what do you think Pitt County Schools does really well, and is there anything else you'd like to share with the district? The main themes that came, this is the really good stuff, this is what came out of our conversations with all of our stakeholders. They agreed that recruiting and retaining highly effective teachers in Pitt County schools is our most important need. We found that through everyone, parents, business leaders, there's a widespread lack of awareness of the improvement initiatives and the good things that are underway in our district. So we've learned from that we need to do a better job of getting people into our schools and seeing what's going on. Everyone agrees that parent involvement is considered important for student and school success. Across the board, parents want to collaborate with Pitt County schools. They do perceive as issue as communication between schools and parents. School choice is a significant issue for parents when they are choosing our public schools. Many parents, and I think this is a really good sign in our community, believe in the positive community and societal impact of public education, and that's a significant factor in why they choose to send their children to public schools. 3 factors emerged that are reasons they choose not to send their children to public schools. Those are social factors and perceptions about the quality of education, and also the stability of school assignment. Redistricting is a significant factor we heard often. Educational programming and the use of technology in classrooms and in communications are widely seen as successes in our schools. And finally, parents and community members overwhelmingly appreciate opportunities to engage in dialogue about public education. We like to joke on our board that none of these community conversations died a natural death, that even after an hour or an hour and a half, people still wanted to share with us how they felt about public schools and why they wanted to be involved. I would say, based on the enthusiastic response from our community, that Parents for Public Schools believes that these conversations focusing on public education are needed and should continue. We believe that all public education stakeholders should be a part of these conversations, and we stand ready to engage with educational leaders, parents, community members, and stakeholders to make Pitt County schools the preferred choice. Parents for Public Schools of Pitt County, we consider it our responsibility to provide the bridge that connects Pitt County residents with its leaders in education. We ask you to consider these results when seeking ways to improve student success for all our children in Pitt County. We do plan to continue this program, and tonight I'd like to ask you to consider what questions or what feedback from the community would you like us to gather over the next year, and how can we help? How can we enhance your efforts for community engagement? That's the end of my presentation, but I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have about our community conversations.
Any questions, Mayor?
I do. With this right here, you have data, statistical data that backs up what you were saying. But what's your percentage of minority involvement and input into your surveys?
Well, we purposely do not ask for any identifying information from our participants. When we are doing...
Let me tell you the reason why I asked.
Yes, ma'am.
Because, see, you got the Noon Rotary, you got Kiwanis, you have, what was it, the Afternoon Rotary Club at the university level. You have the Greenville Kiwanis, the Hilton area. You have a PPS annual network meeting. These things over at Fire Tower, different segments and everything like that, but there are not a lot of minorities. Chicago data, you have a lot of that, but you don't have a lot of, you indicate race in your listing, but yet and still you don't reflect that in your findings. So I was interested to know how all of this play into asking parents to become involved. You want parents to be involved, but yet and still, what parents are you seeking out?
We are trying to be very open and welcoming to all backgrounds. Many of our conversations, specifically at Boys and Girls Club, a Mexican, were the complete opposite of what you would see at a Noon Rotary Club. So while we don't gather that information, we do eyeball it, and I'm pleased to tell you that about 50% of our participants in these community conversations were minority, and we continue to reach out to other organizations in our community. We plan to move these programs into 2015 and 2016, and we're actively seeking other groups to go out and speak with, because this information needs to be truly reflective of our community, our whole community. This was our first year.
I have one other question. Before I came on the board, I was president of the PTA Council for all the Pitt County schools. Are you in collaboration? Who is do you know who the Pitt County PTA Council president? Does it exist? Or do you work with them at all? Because I remember you guys from being in PTA years ago, but yet and still you never speak about that at any time now.
I'm not aware of the PTA council being underway in Pitt County, at least for the last couple of years. When I was involved with our PTA as an officer, both at Epps and at Elmhurst, there was not a PTA council that was active at that time. So we do try to work. We reach out through our PTAs, through our schools, through the district, and communications through the Public Information Office to get our information out to PTAs. That's still another area of growth for us, where we would like to have Parents for Public Schools representatives in every schools. We're lucky and fortunate that through our PEP class that we have representatives in 13 schools this year. We have a new class coming through next year, and we hope to have representatives from even more of our schools in the district.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I find it kind of, not disturbing, but I find it very interesting, because I think the basis of you coming with this, the Parent for Public, was the fact that you used to be a PTA, or there was, you see what I'm saying? What you gleaned from the PTA, what you learned from the PTA brought this about.
Well, I think it's a very...
And yet still there's no PTA in every school, or no PTA council president that would be representative of the schools in our districts. And to think that you want to work, you see what I'm saying, with the community and work on behalf of the students. The PTA was always that thing. That's how you got started. So why wouldn't you reach back, you see what I'm saying, to find where those individuals are, where they are, what they're doing, to make that more accessible?
Well, the PTAs are very...
I don't understand that.
They're very important to our work. We also realize that PTAs focus on their schools, and Parents for Public Schools is focused on our district. The other issue with PTA officers is, and I'm sure you know this as a former officer, there's a lot of work involved every day in their schools. We are reaching out to our schools. We're trying to get involvement from parents, and as we grow this organization, we'll continue to do a better job of that.
Mark?
I just want to say thank you for what you've done. It's probably one of the most comprehensive reports I've read. I think it gives good, insightful data in terms of what parents think. I think, getting parent participation in any school is a difficult thing to do. Getting parent participation aside from this, in terms of what you guys have done, I think is probably even harder to do. So thank you for what you've done. I think if any of us could wave a magic wand, it would be increased parental support. That's the key. And then connecting it at home in terms of what goes on with their students and their education. So thank you. I think it's a good read. It's a good report. It gives some helpful information. I think it also gives a lot of praise to Dr. Linker and the new direction he's taken the school system and how quickly he's moving that. I think that's a good thing, and the public is obviously seeing that. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'd just like to offer some suggestions to you for your upcoming groups. You need to involve the NAACP. They have an education council. You got your 4-H that is very active involved, and plus the PTA is still strong. I see them at our state meetings. They're very active, and I'm a former state PTA board member. So I still, my heart is there for that as well. And also, you got the Mexican children. You really should have some African-American groups. There are several groups in this city and county. The black churches have lots of children throughout Pitt County, so I would like to recommend to you that to really get to the nitty-gritty of it, I would like to see some, you say minorities, but I want to see some black African-American groups to survey, the ones that are the professional black groups as well as the lay black groups, because, none of us are the same. Some of us share culture, but still there's differences in our beliefs, our opinions, and all of that. So I would like for you to really look at those areas as well.
Thank you.
And NAACP president was here tonight, and I heard what he was saying, that, you know, they get left out and they do a lot for the community. They fight, they advocate for us every day at the state level and national level. So they have a youth agenda, they have an educational agenda. So those groups could give you some perspectives as well. So I just like to share that. And you got your daycare centers, I mean, all kinds of things going on in this community. And you got your sororities and fraternities. All those groups have different kinds of folk in them. People with PhDs, master levels, no Ds, in between, lay folk. I mean, good people of all different types that can give you some additional things that you might need to really get a real clearer picture of what Pitt County thinks. 227 participants of how many thousand people in Pitt County? That's just like that much or less. So I would recommend that, and I know it's a lot of work, and I think you've done a good job, and I've been a part of Parent for Public Schools. When it first started, I was a part of it. So I know what it's like, I know what PTA is about, and a whole lot of other things too. So if we can help you, you know, we like to make sure that it's more diverse, because, you know, it doesn't tell all my story or people that look like me stories in it. So I just like to share that as a offer to help you get more information. And it's good, but it could be better.
We agree.
Thank you.
We agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At our board meetings, I see a couple of staples typically are the majority of the board members. PCAE is regularly here, and Parents for Public Schools. So it says a lot when people show up. They show up consistently. Your leadership shows up consistently. I see you out there, Robert Moore. Welcome back. Good to see you. And I just want to thank you. And it's so, as a board member, refreshing to hear a presentation that ends with, how can we help? So thank you.
That's what we're here for.
Thank you, Mr.
Well, we're giving you our input.
Okay,
Thank you.
anyone else? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. And this concludes our new business, but we have an item, old business. At our last meeting, we had a motion at the May 4th, 2015 board meeting, and Mary made a motion to place a moratorium on any student that transfers to an open enrollment school, so they would not be able to play sports for 1 year with us. And that was seconded by Shaw Kenny. And so this motion was tabled for a specific amount of time, which was our next meeting. And so we're here at this meeting, so now it's open up for discussion. So we're ready to hear discussions, because it was tabled for a reason. And not everybody speak at one time.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll make some comments. I'm sure it'll get the conversation going.
Sure will.
I'll go back 2 or 3 meetings ago and just explain again when we received a board packet and we had open enrollment schools listed. The Rose High School was not on that list. And it wasn't on that list for reasons that I still believe that we had an informal agreement that we would discuss it further and bring in other options. And I think there's some good options to help with the attendance and help with the enrollment inequities in several of the schools. But having said all of that, I don't like the idea of the potential of punishing kids, and I know sports is extracurricular. I understand that. At the same time, I also know that as a public school system, we are a comprehensive system, which means that we value all types of academia, which involves creating and making the whole person. Sports is part of that. Even though I am
I'm opposed to a moratorium from the standpoint of fairness to the kids at the same time. And especially in the smaller schools, Aden, Grifton, North Pitt, Farmville Central. I just think that there would be some unfairness if we provided for that. At the same time, I will tell you that, having said all of that, talking about fairness, with the Rose High School not being on that original list, if there was going to be a moratorium, and I don't think it's got the support of the majority of this board. If there was going to be a moratorium, I would put the moratorium on Rose High School.
You're saying Rose High School only?
That's right. But having said all of that, at the very least, I understand that, you know, and since we're talking about moratoriums, then that means we're talking about athletics and we're talking about sports. I do know, I think, that the North Carolina High School Athletic Association does have in its policy and rules, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Linker, that when you have open enrollments like that, there should not be any kind of recruiting of students for athletic purposes at all. And I think that some of us understand that, and some of us, maybe that needs to be reinforced a little bit more. At the very least, I would like to see some kind of correspondence from the superintendent's office down to the faculty and staffs, employees of Pitt County Schools, with some major potential consequences if it is found out that we are recruiting students to go to other schools. And I mean, letter from the superintendent's office spelling out those consequences or potential consequences. At the very least, I would like to see that. So that's what I have to say, Mr. Chair, right now, depending on what other kind of conversations develop.
I had a question, something that was shared with me since we met. I was trying to recruit some students to do some summer programs. And the comment coming from some parents and grandparents was that, well, no, our child can't do that because they're on such and such sports team this summer, and those coaches won't let them go nowhere. I'm like, the coaches won't let them go nowhere. Well, don't they have parents? I mean, my kids play sports too. They were A students, but when I got ready to take them somewhere to educate them, they travel. You know, I told the coach, look, I'm not trying to make no NFL player. I'm trying to make a scholar out of Pitt County schools. So that's what I said. And I said, now my child is going to go with me on my trip, wherever I'm going cross country, for a week. And he's going to get his homework from each of those teachers, so he's going to be up to speed when he gets back. But what I'm just hearing, which was really surprising, that the coaches, in some cases, I won't say all of them, are not allowing kids to do nothing but play the sport. So now that's, and I realize they need them for the team, but you mean to tell me I'm a parent and I'm going to take vacation this summer, I'm going on a professional conference where I will expose my child to another part of the United States, and they can't go? So is that appropriate, Dr. Link? I need to ask you that question, because, I mean, I was just told, and I just heard this within the last 2 weeks, that the child couldn't go to a one-week program, and the child is a junior in high school, because the coach said, no, you can't go. So now, is that not too much influence over the child, or am I in the wrong area here? I mean, somebody help me with the athletics.
Your statement was, or who's the parent? So go back to that and just let it go, and then.
Well, who's the parents, but I mean, does the coach have that kind of control over your child? Just because I'm on that football team and there's practice this summer, you mean to tell me I can't do nothing else but practice that hot football all the time? I can't even go someplace to learn something academically, or that's going to help me career-wise, and I'm trying to get out of high school, so I got to stay out there on that field all summer because the coach said you can't go, you may get kicked off the team. I have issues with that. Is that a rule that when coach does, is that the coach's rule? I'm just trying to
gonna
figure
get-
out.
you
Because
gonna
when my
check
boys
on
were on the
that and get
team, I
back
made
with
the
her.
rule. You know, they played basketball, but when I got ready to take them somewhere, they gonna go. And I took them, and they stayed on the team. Because I took a stand. And they were good players, but they did both.
Okay, moratorium.
So I'm trying to figure out, I need an answer to that question before I can make a decision tonight, because that further disenfranchise my thoughts about, you know, the sport thing, because if kids, you know, is holding hostage for athletics and I can go and get them out of school for an educational trip, as long as they do their homework, but I can't get them from a sports team because they just practicing and it's not even game time. So help me with that. So I need somebody help me to understand that, because that was a new one on me. And the parents was helpless. No, Miss Council, that they can't go on that trip because they got football practice this summer. And the coach said they can't go nowhere but be at the practice every single day. I'm like, what? So who has, can that coach actually put the child off the team because the parent want to take them somewhere or get them out for a week to learn something in their brains that's going to help them for the rest of their lives? That's what I'm trying to find. Is that, tell me.
There's nothing in high school athletic policy that would say that either way.
Huh?
Okay, but that goes back to your question about parenting. That goes back to the parent
So the
conversation.
parent does have that right. So that's the thing that we got to teach
And
parents,
if
that
something
don't let no
happens on
coach,
that
no
line,
teacher.
you need to get in contact with him.
Okay, and get in touch with, okay.
Okay.
Thank you, I'll share that.
Mary?
Okay.
That's crazy. But that's the impact that these sports things happen with your children. It's crazy.
Since our last meeting, the May 4th meeting, I have had several conversations with parents concerning the moratorium that I made, the motion that I made. And I still haven't changed my constitution about it. I just have not. Academics is what we're trying to excel in and make sure our students excel in that. Yes, Rose High offers 19 AP and honors classes, and North Pitt currently has 5, but that doesn't mean that North Pitt is still not going to continue to build our AP and honors classes. Now, one thing I must say I did not think about in all of this was my middle schoolers, the middle graders. I did not think about them when I talked about the moratorium. I was strictly thinking about high school. When they transferred to a high school, that was the only thing on my brain. And the reason that being is because kids have a tendency, and it's not the kids. Let's be honest here. Let's just put it out there. It is not the children. It is the parents who, 9 times out of 10, want their child to participate in the sports or whatever, chosen sports. And these coaches, lots of them are straight disappointments because they already know that they do not have these kids who excel in academics that play under their leadership. That young man that was here tonight is an exception to the rule because of his home environment and that support structure. A lot of these kids, year after year, and I see it, my husband see it, we see it all the time, day in and day out. We have these kids who play their heart out for these high school coaches. Then once they graduate, they don't get offered a crumb, not even anything at the 2-year college level, nor the 4-year college level, and half of them, we do them an injustice because they can barely read and write. Let's keep it real. So these coaches and these ADs that came up here just didn't impress me with what they were saying, none whatsoever. So for me, it is about the academics. I'm going to stick with it regardless of what. The only thing that I regret is I did not consider the middle schoolers. I was strictly thinking about mass recruitments of our high schools. And I don't want to hurt anybody or hurt any child at the middle school level. I truly do not want to do that, but I'm sticking with it. I feel like, parents have not read truly, and apparently the ADs have not read our policy when it comes to open enrollment. Because when it says open enrollment, you have to be at our schools, am I correct? For 1 year. So you going 1 year does not change the fact that you will not be able, you can currently participate in sports, but I don't think that it's fair for you to participate if you're going to leave and leave for athletics and athletics only. And like I said, if I get the votes, I do. If I don't, I don't. I'm not changing my mind.
Mr. Chairman, I kind of find myself at odds tonight at different points in time, from the parents for public schools to now talking about our coaches. I dare say if we spend some time at some of these practices that these coaches have going on, I don't know of a single coach in Pitt County Schools that I don't take my hat off to in terms of what they're doing, spending their extra time, their hours. I think if you, please don't interrupt.
Please don't interrupt.
Excuse me.
Okay, I won't.
I dare say, when you factor out the amount of time, they get a pittance for what they do. But secondly, I'm not going to sit here and tolerate a single employee of this district being denigrated in terms of what they're doing for students. I think I've heard a lot of really positive things tonight going on, and yet we have this back and forth tear apart of what we have going on positive, and it's ridiculous. I'm proud of the coaching staff that we have in every single one of our schools, the positive relationships, the avenues, and the extra outlets that they're affording our students in terms of engaging them in what they do. So my hats are off to the Rose AD, the coaching staff, to everyone else. I think they're doing an awesome job, and I totally appreciate what they're doing.
Mr. Chairman, I call for the question.
Second.
Basically, what he's done is called for a previous question, which means he's ready to vote. He's got a second, so that means you've got to vote on whether you're ready to vote. Requires a majority, requires a two-thirds majority vote, is not amendable nor debatable.
So we have to vote on the called question.
That's correct.
In other words, all those in favor of go ahead and voting on that amendment without any more discussion.
That's correct.
Yep. All those in favor of
requires a two-thirds vote.
Going ahead and voting on the amendment, raise your right hand without further discussion. What we're saying is, we're ready to call the question. We're ready to vote on the amendment without any more discussion.
Okay.
You're not voting on the motion. You're voting on.
You're voting on whether to vote or not.
Whether to vote.
Close discussion.
In other words, what we're saying is we're shutting down the discussion.
I knew he did that.
Okay, all those in favor of
Closing discussion.
The question, the motion, raise your right hand. All those opposed?
Keep on discussing.
Yes, I haven't had a chance to say anything. May I say something?
Yeah.
Thank you. I made a point of attempting to engage the public on several occasions after this, really, in my experience, the first controversial thing that we've had to deal with since I've been on the board. And so, in addition to talking to a whole lot of people, who some of them just came up to me and talked to me in the course of everyday life, and a few called me, most of them pretty angry at me for agreeing to it, agreeing to the moratorium. They were pretty upset, the ones that called me. But I did attend 4 different forums where the public was invited to speak about current issues facing Pitt County schools and future issues. 2 of those were listening sessions held with my fellow board members. And one was a community conversation that Parents for Public Schools did with the Girl Scouts at their monthly meeting, and I happen to be a Girl Scout leader, so I was there. And I listened at that meeting. And the other one was PPS's annual spring network meeting that focused on school capacity issues, and a great presentation by Mr. Johnson and Mr. Letchworth. And there were about 75 people, roughly, at all those events. I also attended, it wasn't a listening session, Title I Spring Parent event, which was held a couple of weeks ago. They do one in the fall and one in the spring. It's educational and celebratory. And after that's over, they have hot dogs and fellowship time. And instead of eating, I walked around and introduced myself to the parents who were still there, and basically polled them on what their thoughts were. And I will just say that of the people that I have spoken to, and who brought, some people at the listening sessions didn't bring it up and talk about it at all. At the first listening session, that was in Greenville, there were 14 people out of 17 who were pretty vehemently against it. And Sean was there, so he can probably say more about that. And 3 of them didn't have an opinion one way or the other. They were there for other issues. At the Title I Spring Parent event, I was able to actually speak to 3 different tables, a total of 8 parents, and one of them is an Aiden Grifton parent who was absolutely for the moratorium and thinks it's a great idea. She has seen lots of families come into the Aiden Grifton schools and feels like it's harder for her own children to make the sports teams in the Aiden Grifton schools. Her kids have been there from elementary through high school, and she thinks that's not fair. But the other 7 were very much against it. And then at the Girl Scouts community conversation, there was one person there who is a Pitt County Schools employee who said that she was against it. And the rest of the ones I talked to, there were about 12 at that meeting. The rest of the ones I spoke to either didn't know anything about it, didn't care about it, don't have kids in public schools, or don't like the idea of punishing kids for things that adults should know better than to do, recruiting. And then lastly, at the spring network meeting of the PPS, it really just didn't come up. Nobody really brought it to the attention. At that point, it seemed like people are kind of over it. They just weren't talking about it anymore. But there was one table sitting behind me, and she acted like she wanted to speak, but she didn't. And so I called her on the way out, and I asked her about, is there an issue that you wanted to bring up? And she said, well, yes. In fact, I wanted to talk about the proposed moratorium. And y'all asked many times for folks, give them plenty of opportunity to speak up. And she's also a Pitt County Schools employee, and she doesn't like the idea of, she does like the idea of a moratorium. She also likes the idea. So the people who were for the moratorium that I was able to speak with and that chose to speak to me about it, it were very few. There were 3, basically, out of quite a large number who were for the moratorium, and the rest really didn't like it because they think that kids need the opportunity to play sports and they shouldn't be punished for what the adults do. And I will say, Benji, I really like what you said about throwing the book. Those are my words. I'm paraphrasing what you said. Throwing the book at any of our adult coaches. These are adults who are employees who have rules and guidebooks that they're supposed to comport themselves by. And I hope that Dr. Linker would take the appropriate measures, whatever those are, if a coach is found to be recruiting. It's not appropriate. It's not appropriate in any circumstance, not between schools. It's not appropriate.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I'll be brief. I'd like to thank Ms. Gwen from D.H. Conley for coming and speaking tonight. I appreciated your words, some of which I couldn't agree more. You implied we're talking about two schools in particular, and I've talked about that on many occasions, and I've referred to it as the Hatfield and McCoys. And I will stand by that statement to this day. It is my hope to help move the Pitt County community past that Hatfield and McCoy mentality with regard to two high schools in particular. Keep coming back to it. Looked at an attendance issue at Rose. Had to do something, threw it out there for open enrollment. That passed. All of a sudden, it was insinuated, well, this is about athletics. Came back and said, fine, we can take athletics off the table then. But then, that's a problem as well. And okay, fine, I agree with we are about academics. I agree with not punishing kids. So I'm just officially going back to open enrollment is open enrollment. So, period. I'm very much respect Ms. Williams. Have had several conversations with her about a moratorium, not since the last meeting, in all fairness. We've had many conversations, just not about that. However, I'm just going to go back to open enrollment is open enrollment, and thank everybody in the public for their support. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? Okay, that gave everyone a chance to say what they needed to say. We got a motion on the floor.
Got a motion on the floor.
And that we need to vote, and you want to state your motion again?
I make the motion, Mr. Chairman, that any student transferring to an open enrollment, particularly high school, be made to sit down for 365 days once upon arriving at that particular high school.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
May I put on my parliamentary hat? The motion has got to be what was tabled to a particular time.
That's fine. We do that. On May 4th, Mr. Chairman, I made a motion to place a moratorium on any student that transferred to an open enrollment school so they will not be able to play sports for 1 year. For 1 year.
Right. Okay, that was stated exactly like she stated it at the previous meeting on May 4th. All those in favor of this motion, raise your right hand. All those opposed to the motion?
Mr. Chair, after you make the announcement, I got a motion to make.
Okay. Motion did not carry. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move that we ask our superintendent to provide correspondence to faculty and staff of Pitt County Schools, letting them know that we are opposed and will be watching very closely for any kind of recruiting of students going to other schools, and with major consequences if it is learned that they are doing so.
Second.
Major consequences?
As in fire.
Well, the potential could be there. If they're coaches, they could lose their coaching. If they're other
Coaching and
faculty staff, they could lose their job.
And Sean seconded. Any discussion? Walter?
Before the meeting, I did talk with Dr. Linker just a few minutes, and I had the same thing. I had saw Billy down at the river, that we would not tolerate any kind of recruiting, even in academics, for someone to fill up at a school, to fill up a certain classroom and stuff. Dr. Linker assured me that he would be onto that and would watch all that very, very closely. And there would be some heavy consequences if that they were caught recruiting academically. But Well, I mean, not.
That's not what we said, sir. That's not what we
I
talked
take that part
about.
back, but I
Okay,
mean.
don't say that. That's
I
not
think
what we
state
said.
law says athletics is, athletics.
Yes, sir.
That he would be
That's a
watching that
High School
very
Athletic
closely.
Association.
And would possibly give us some feedback on academics if they were recruiting for classrooms.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
Any other
That's not
discussion?
part of my motion.
Am I right now?
I know that's not part of your motion, but we got that motion, and he had a discussion item, he had right to say what.
Sure.
Okay, is that it for that? State your motion again.
Read the motion back.
Come on, Carol.
Made a motion that we ask the superintendent to provide correspondence to Pitt County School staff that he is opposed, that the Board of Education is opposed and watching very closely for recruitment.
Any kind of recruitment of students for athletic purposes.
For athletic purposes, and it may result in, or will result in consequences.
Well, severe consequence. I think that's far enough. Superintendent knows how to handle that.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Okay. Benji? We got,
Are
let's
you
see
ready?
here. Wait, no, we got closing comments. Comments by the superintendent.
Just quickly, year's coming to an end. I'd like to thank all the faculty and staff for a great year. We've got graduation next week. Also, shout out to Dr. Delilah Jackson. Most every one of you has heard that she's been named superintendent of Washington County Schools, although I tried to make sure no one knew about that, but we wish her luck, obviously, and Lisa, still get to work with her in our region, so thank you, sir.
I'm gonna pass on comments. Ms. Mildred?
I just like to say I enjoyed the two awards day that I attended. I attended J.H. Rose High and North Pitt High School within the last 2 weeks. And they were very interesting, and I enjoyed both of them, but we still got to continue to work. And just like to challenge all the high school principals to keep working at it. And I would just like to recommend to them all that starting next year, that when your children graduate, there's a plan for every single child. Those guidance counselors need to work harder at it. And I think we need to include our social workers to help with that. And also to work on some of those other issues that will help make that child a better rounded student, so that when they leave the grounds of Pitt County School, they will have a place to go. I think that's very, very important. That is a goal that I don't think is too hard to ask of any principal and his or her staff to do in our high schools in Pitt County. Have a plan for everybody and make sure they met with those students. And that's another thing we've learned at meetings too. Some schools are actually doing that. They are making sure every child has a plan. And it's not just in the state of North Carolina, across the nation. There's another whole effort going out there to make sure these kids have a place to go when they leave these high schools. And then we will really have accomplished something.
Caroline?
Sure. I'd like to congratulate Dr. Cato at North Pitt, right there, for completing the Distinguished Leadership Program. It's a collaborative effort with DPI, UNC, and the Principals Association. It's a rigorous year-long program that focuses on continuous improvement of your school and of your own leadership skill. And it's exactly what we want to see across every single school in Pitt County. So my hat's off to you, sir. I hope that we have of other principals that will continue to get that opportunity. Want to congratulate Barbara Brody, who wrote for and has been awarded a CenturyLink grant for $5,000 for a smart table to help teach kindergartners math reading skills. I think that's fabulous. South Central High School, just have to give them a shout out. They sent 57 of their students to a Rotary International Conference in New Bern. There were several other schools there attending this. They learned about polio eradication efforts of what Rotary does, shelter boxes, genocide, and then they shared their own community improvement initiatives with the Rotarians as well as with the other high school students there. I think that's a wonderful thing. Our students have been doing some fun things lately. Walcott's fourth graders took a great field trip to the beach, and they actually got to go fishing in addition to learning about coastal history and habitat and ecosystems. Aiden Middle's been doing some great things. I sure wish I could have done this. Built historical scenes with Legos. Claymation videos about science standards. What a great way to bring the science standards that DPI puts out to life, making a claymation video about it. That's so cool. And of course, using iPods to make music. And I'd also like to say that the listening sessions and the interaction with the public, we thank you so much for coming out and helping to inform me in this tough decision that I had to mull over, and I hope we can do more of that in the future. Thank you.
Sean?
I just started.
You just finished?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm really looking forward to graduations next week. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone. I'm looking forward to that time of celebration, which is the culmination of everything we do. Everybody, please remind your families, your guests, and all that to be respectful of everyone during these ceremonies. Enjoy it, celebrate, and be respectful. And so much good going on in our schools, and thank you, Brock Letchworth, for time and time again bringing so many people. The beginning of our meetings have become just much more pleasurable here, especially in the past 6 months, and thank you for all your efforts with that. On Saturday, I was very honored to participate in a 5K at Elmhurst Elementary, helping them raise funds to build a multipurpose room onto their school. It was outstanding. It was a great job by the whole community. And then I got home and heard about losing one of our own. I just can't imagine that on a nice day where we all have a good time, someone lost their child, one of our own. And that's weighed heavy on my heart. And I pray for that family. I hope they're doing well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mark?
I'd just like to say thank you to our public school employees for the jobs that they're doing, making miracles happen every single day for our students. Awesome job. Appreciate what you do.
Mary?
I'd like to say congratulations, Dr. Jackson. You will be missed, truly missed. Right, Dr. Lincoln? I also like to say congratulations to the students and the custodians that were recognized tonight. But Caroline gave a shout out to Dr. Cato for his award at the state level. But I'd also like to tell you guys something. Under Dr. Lionel Cato's leadership at North Pitt High School, I am so just proud of him and our guidance department. He sees the vision of my new North Star. Our kids this year will be receiving over $3.4 million in scholarship money. That's the first time in the history of North Pitt High School. And that's a lot to be proud of for any administrator. And I want to thank you so very much, Dr. Cato, for your work ethic, for your belief in our students, for the makeup of the new, guidance department, our coaches that you're recruiting to help these students have that plan once they walk off that stage on that Friday or Saturday. I would just like to thank you so much for that. Saturday, we did receive the news about the young man and took something away from us. It's a joyous time, but yet and still, we keep that family lifted up in our prayers. And we also like to want them to know that if it's anything that we can do, that we will be there for them. And his brother, I'm not sure if he has a sister or anything, but I do know he has a brother. But if they, reach out, then we are here for them.
Wow.
That's it.
I said I won't say, but I am anyway. I was looking Memorial Day, and as I was watching NASCAR, I saw the lottery emblem come up. I said, now, what are they doing with that money? So I called my two representatives, Don Davis and Brian Brown. Brian Brown ain't called me back yet, but Don Davis did, to find out how much money was being spent. The lottery has spent over $300,000 to put money in a race that we need in the school system. $300,000 they put in a race, a truck race they sponsored, and emblems and logos at Charlotte. And I called my friend Mitchell Oakley, and he said they probably didn't sell 6 extra tickets because of it. But that's money that, my understanding was that the lottery is supposed to go to the school system. And I look at my $300,000.
There you go.
That's exactly what Mitchell said, too.
You know what I'm talking about?
Are you ready for the motion?
Read the motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we go into closed session to consult with our attorney to protect the attorney-client privilege, to consider and give instructions concerning a potential or actual claim, administrative, procedural, judicial action, to consider and give instructions concerning a judicial action titled H.O. by his parents, J.M. and P.M. versus Pitt County Board of Education, and Billy Walls versus Pitt County Board of Education, as pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3.
You made the motion, is there a second?
Second.
Caroline, second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
We have 2 minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, at least.